Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for another preview and transfer news and all sorts of other Chelsea bits and bobs that we need to talk about live stream ahead of Chelsea versus Liverpool, or as I should say, Liverpool versus Chelsea tomorrow with the early kickoff at 12:30 p.m. UK time. And I mean, the best time to play Liverpool, really, when you look at their injuries, their form, but at least until we beat Palace, also the best time to play us. So, as Lewis calls it, a battle of mids. And quite frankly, he's not wrong. But we do have a few players that we've added, over the last couple of days and weeks that might help us tomorrow. Obviously, we'll see how many of those will and will not feature. But yeah, we have a lot of transfer news to discuss before we get into any Liverpool versus Chelsea talk. And yes, as you can see, we've got Uncle Jester's back on. Jester and Pice in the same stream. Hey, who would have thought that would ever happen again? Nah, I'm messing about.
It's all good, bro. It's all good.
Jester, first of all, thank you for giving me your time again, giving us your time again. What have been your thoughts around what's been happening at Chelsea over the last few weeks in terms of the signings? Like, have you found them to be good signings? And then we'll get into more detail about Madueke, who, of course, not quite announced yet, but, pretty much official.
Well, first of all, I need to put it out there that I wasn't the biggest Mudryk fan. Again, you're looking at the money, all the hype that's gone into him from two fan bases now. First Arsenal, now ours. And you see at the level he's played at, and you go, yes, all the compilations look great. We just hope that there was actual scouting that went into this, because it's one of those things that he's going to either hit that level of what people were saying about him, or it's going to be down here and maybe, shall I say, another Pulisic thing, where it just doesn't quite work out. Since they're similar type players, not to say they're the same, but they're similar. Beat somebody with a dribble, fast, quick, can break a defense down. So, yeah, I'll say that. But Vavell apparently has scouted him for a long time for other teams as well. So, maybe Salzburg and the Red Bull
Leipzig
family of clubs. So again, I think that we're okay on that signing if again the correct scouting went into it. And then Madueke, we needed a left footer. You got to have a left footer that can change the way you play, whether it's playing on the right, cutting inside, playing on the left, and being natural width, depending on how you want to play him. And Hakim Ziyech has not shown the ability to deal with the physicality and the pace of the Premier League. So, again, also English. So we're talking about getting rid of some English players. You got to have a certain number of English players on the team or homegrown players on the team. So from there, I think those are two good signings. But I think to really judge this window, you're gonna have to see if a midfielder comes in. I think that's going to be
that's going to be the big one. Absolutely, yeah. I do agree with you, mate. Just lastly, quickly on Joao Felix, what do you make of the whole loan, no option to buy? Of course, that doesn't mean we can't buy him. Just means we don't have anything pre-negotiated in terms of price. But what do you make of this? Do you see us buying him long term, or is it to you totally dependent on how the loan goes?
Well, at first, the first thought was yes, because he's the type of player who can play 10 center forward or wing, right? So he can play along. Just like Nkunku can. People saying we're signing only wingers, but Nkunku, Felix can play center forward. They can play 10, and you can move them around. I don't think they wouldn't have that would be not a very stationary, front four. It would be predicated on movement. But now I'm hearing links to Vlahovic. Are you going to sign a Vlahovic and a Felix and an Nkunku? Then you start going, well, okay, maybe that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and that's the reason why we didn't push for an option or a obligation, and maybe that was the reason. But I would sign him just because I think we're bereft of talent in that area compared to the top teams. So I would sign him and Vlahovic and go, okay, let's go. And if you think that's blocking academy kids, if they're good enough, they'll take their place anyway, right? If they're not good enough, they won't make the team, and that's all I want to hear about that. So,
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. Obviously, you always need chances. Like, say we're not in Europe next year, that will make it more difficult for any youngster because any manager will always pick regular first teamers over young players. But if you have enough games, I agree with that. Just to take it back to what you said about Mudryk, I mean, I have always been very transparent. When we were first linked with him, and I thought it was just a smokescreen of Shakhtar to get Arsenal to pay up, if I'm being perfectly honest. In the end, it didn't turn out that way. In the end, we even heard now, again, it's always journalists talking in hindsight and then having these big stories and this big news that they never once mentioned before. Now, of course, they're not always allowed to say everything that they know about. And sometimes they also hear about things in hindsight. But I do always find it funny, like, in this case, it was Fabrizio, is of course one of the most reliable ones, but still, it was Fabrizio. There was already secret contact with Mudryk in the summer. I'm like, yeah, but does that make it less? Like, does that make it better or worse? Because look at the success of our summer signings. So I'm not sure if that makes it any better if we were already interested in the summer before we had any of the recruitment people that we've employed since then employed. Because then are we sure it's come from our current recruitment people? Now, obviously, Jester mentioned the Vivell thing, but with the stories, I guess we will never have a full conclusion on when it started, who started it, and whatever else. But at the end of the day, I was like, similar to you, like expensive. Compilation looks good, certain stats look good, absolutely. But how will it translate from a different league to this league? But then, I will be perfectly honest, Arsenal haven't made a lot of bad signings recently. So the fact that they wanted him quite badly, in my opinion, is a good sign. And also, just how hilarious it is, how salty and how they've absolutely lost their minds at Arsenal and Arsenal fans. That's just the best thing about this. So if he works, one of the best transfers we've ever made, purely because we pissed off Arsenal so much. Absolutely brilliant. Pice, I'll take it back to you. First of all, thank you for joining us, of course, sorry. The big news I was going to say the day, but really last night, it was first kind of, I guess it came out by Fabrizio Romano as here we go. Noni Madueke is joining Chelsea for around £30 million. Now, there have been a few different numbers that were being reported. David Ornstein said 33 million euros, 28 million pounds. Fabrizio Romano said 35 million euros, which is 30 million pounds. And the Dutch outlet said 40 million euros, which is 35 million pounds. So anywhere around the realm of that, between just under 30 million pounds, just over 30 million pounds. That's what we're going to be paying. So what do we think? Because as you people watching, and as Pice most certainly knows, I'm not sure if Jester is aware, but I was very, very, very much against this when this first popped up. Not because he's left-footed, not because we don't need, other players. I absolutely agree with what Jester said in terms of that we needed a left-footed, that also has a bit of pace, unlike Hakim Ziyech. Absolutely required. I absolutely agree with that. It's just a question of, does the talent and potential outweigh the injury concerns? That was kind of the question. And in an ideal world, I think, Pice, you said this when we were here with your expert a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, talking about Madueke. We were like, in an ideal world, we'll probably sign him in the summer and see, does he get injured again between now and then, any more muscle problems? Because last year it was like 4 or 5 muscle injuries. This year it was an impact ankle injury. That is a different story. You kind of take that out of the equation of how injury prone or not he is. But because he suffered from a different injury, there wasn't really time for him to have another muscle injury, was there? Because, he didn't play. He's only played 4 or 5 games all season. So as much as, okay, he hasn't had a muscle injury since the season before, but that's because he had a different injury. So ooh, now we have some feedback. Pies, is that coming from you?
Probably. Is it all right now?
Yes. Perfect. Yeah. So Charlie has joined us as well. I will get to you in a second, Charlie. My bad. Pice, your thoughts on the Madueke thing? Is it worth it? Does the potential and talent outweigh the injury concerns to you?
I've got to be 100% honest. I'm very concerned about his injury record. But I'm extremely excited to see him play. Seen him play a little bit before England under 20s as well. Very, very talented player. Really good dribbler. Very fast. But yeah, the injury concerns do, weigh on me a little bit. It's not just, he's had a couple of bad injuries. I think he's had I think he pretty much missed the whole of last season. But as Alex said, he's not had any sort of Achilles or an ACL or something, but to have so many, I think he had 4 or 5 muscle injuries.
Muscle injuries last season.
that's...
Well, apparently, I guess we don't know for sure from the injury lists that we see whether they could potentially have also been aggravations of past injuries that they didn't let heal out properly. I guess
I just think with how we've suffered this season with the injuries, it is a little bit strange to me that we've bought him right now. But I mean, look, they've clearly seen something, unless they're completely stupid, that maybe they can help him with his fitness. But to me, all the signs and facts are that I don't think this medical staff is in the position to help anyone at the moment, to be honest with you. But I mean, we'll see. Like, it's an exciting signing, but there is that sort of, but if he didn't have any injury sort of thing, because I think the price is quite good. To be honest, I mean, another thing I keep seeing a lot is the huge contracts that they're given. Obviously, the 7.5, 8 year contracts. These are very, very good to help with amortization and the spreading of the costs of the fees. But at the end of the day, like, if they don't work out, we're stuck with these guys pretty much, and we have to continue the payments on throughout the seasons. And obviously, that's going to have some sort of effect on our future transfer windows. So, as long as they do well, then I don't see a problem with the long contracts. But if we are kind of putting ourselves at a risk here with them as well in some senses.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I quickly want to react to this comment here about Ejnaku. I'm not sure what's making you believe that he won't be considered homegrown. He was, not homegrown by us, but number one, he is English, so he automatically counts as homegrown just because of that. But also, he went through the academies of Palace and Spurs, so he most definitely counts as homegrown, unless something's gone way over my head that I'm not aware of. But I'm pretty sure, and that's one of the positives that I see about the move, because just as touched on it, whether Ziyech is performance-wise done it or not, he's even left England at 16. He's been in the Netherlands since. FA rule, I think, was 15 to 21, 3 years in between then. But not if you're English-born and an English citizen, right? Jester, you look like you want to add something to that.
He's English. It doesn't matter. He could have been spent his whole career in China. If he's English, has an English pass, if he's born in English, he has the English flag next to his name. When you go to transfer market, if he's played for England, he's English. He's
exactly.
homegrown.
That's how I'm aware of it as well. Now, Ejnaku says it doesn't matter where you're born. I'm pretty sure it does. I think what you're explaining applies to someone like Andreas Christensen, who's of course Danish, but we signed him at a young enough age that he counted as homegrown. But I'm pretty sure Madueke. Hey, we could theoretically be wrong. I just doubt it. But hey, maybe he will be proved correct, Ejnaku. But what I wanted to say is why I think what other benefit there is to him, aside from obviously being young, talented, blah blah blah, is Ziyech hasn't performed, but regardless of that, he is also a non-homegrown player, non-English player that is taking away a potential registration for, in particular, the Champions League. In the Premier League, it's a bit more simple because of under-21s rules, and I'm pretty sure Badiashile and Mudryk, and clearly, obviously, then Madueke as well, they all count as young enough for the under-21 section, as far as I'm aware, so they don't take up any foreign quotas for that, but in the Champions League, they do. So if we replace Hakim Ziyech with an Englishman, then that would allow us a different foreign registration, which that's a positive, a massive positive that I see of it, absolutely. Charlie, let me bring you in. Madueke. Now, like I said, I was very much against it when it first came out, but people also know me. I am ever too optimist, at least I try. So once, I've always been that way. I might be against the transfer when it first comes out now, and then on the basis of either more research, me just learning more about it, and then just, changing my opinion. Quite simple. That is allowed in life. You're allowed to change your opinion once you've gathered more information. But also, once we've signed a player, then I don't have hate for the player. I don't have hate for it happened. Now he's here. Well, not officially announced, but pretty much. Now I'm going to give him a chance. Now I'm going to give him a chance. If he doesn't turn out to be injured all the time and turns out to be amazing, well, flipping brilliant. If we see in the next 2 years he's constantly injured and doesn't really do anything, then in hindsight we can complain about it. But right now, there's no point complaining about it. He's here now. Well, about to be here now, so there's no point complaining. But do you see it as a positive move, Charlie, or is it one where you're like, we still haven't signed a midfielder? It doesn't even look like we're signing a right back. I know Reece James is about to be back fit, but then still, is he going to play every game until the end of the season or what? Still, I do still find the prioritization of things in what order this ownership does that things a little bit odd sometimes. But hey, maybe they have reasons that I'm just not aware of. But what are your thoughts on the whole Madueke thing?
I think just on the prioritizing things, I think in an ideal situation, you'd like to do it in a chronological order of what needs addressing first. But I don't think the transfer market doesn't necessarily work like that. If the option comes to sign players that we do want, and it has to be before we sign a midfield player, for example? Are we really going to be like, no, we don't want to do this deal now. Wait till we sign a midfield player and then we'll come back to it. It doesn't really work like that. And whilst, all Chelsea fans want a midfield player, the fact of the matter is that, we need to improve the attack. Look at some of the games we've played with the attacks we've had. We went up to Newcastle and we had a front line of Broja, Mount and Gallagher. That just one example. So people saying that we don't need to sign attacking players, whilst it might not necessarily be like number one priority, it does need to be addressed. And if the option to address it is now and it can be done, then I haven't got any issue with it. So in terms of the priorities, like obviously in an ideal situation, you'd like to do it in the order that you need the players in, but the market doesn't work like that. So as long as we get these players in, I don't really mind what order it's in. In terms of Madueke himself, I don't know an awful lot about him. I'm not going to pretend that I've watched him loads because I haven't. Seen a little bit of him for PSV, not very much at all, but by all means, it's a talented boy. A left-footed winger, a left-footed player that plays on the right. So that can be a slightly different dynamic, direct, pacey, takes players on. All stuff that we don't see from the Chelsea attack at the moment. So on paper, it's all very exciting, but I'm not in a position to sit here and say, oh, it's going to be fantastic, because I don't know enough about the player at all. But in principle, it sounds good. It sounds like he's got the characteristics for an attacking player that we desperately need. He's got age on his side. You're paying for potential, really, rather than what he's done so far. And I trust that the guys have done their homework and that this guy could be a very good player. So I guess that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think it's a positive move, and only time will tell if it's going to work out or not for us. But I think it's one of these where it's low risk, and as the reward is potentially very high on it. So I don't have too much of an issue with it. Yes, you can point to the fact he's missed 80 odd days with an ankle injury this season. Not great, but I think if that was a persistent problem and that was going to be something long term that could cause issues, then I think that I'd like to think that the club would have done their diligence on it to make sure they weren't signing an injury-prone player, or it's going to be something that keeps reoccurring and whatnot. So yeah, on paper, mate, and in theory, doesn't seem like there's very many downsides to this deal. But obviously, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I hear it. It's like I say, obviously, we've touched on the injuries, God knows how many times now, just in the four of us. They are obviously the main concern, if there is a concern. Otherwise, you're like, the transfer fee isn't crazy. Like £30 million in this modern market really isn't too bad. And that's one thing that annoys me a little bit about a lot of fans. Now, I know I had my issues with the whole Madueke signing when the rumor first came about and we learned about his injury record, mostly because of, the amount of injuries we had at the very time of this rumor starting. It's just counterproductive, in my opinion, I would say. And also contradicting of itself to sign an injury-prone player while you have 11, 12 injuries at the club. Now, obviously, we're starting to ease those injury situations, not necessarily for the game tomorrow just yet, but into an extreme extent. But after that, we will. So I guess then it becomes little bit less of an issue. But what annoys me is the people that when we sign Mudryk, they're like, too expensive. Why are we spending so much money on this player that no one's heard of? And then we buy a player that also no one's heard of for much less money, and they're like, well, he's not good enough. I'm like, well, what do you want then? So first, it's too expensive, and now we do it for one cheap, and you also don't like it. So what? And then
those same people will be like, when we sign, for example, if Madueke went to a slightly lesser team for say 20 million, 30 million quid, and then became really good, and we ended up signing him for 70, 80 million quid, those same people would then be moaning, oh, why have we not discovered these guys before they get expensive and spend so much money on it? So there's no pleasing some people, basically.
No, and I think that's just I don't know. I don't want to make it as simple as it's just Twitter. It might just be modern society. But yeah, like you say, there is no pleasing of people. We'll just have to wait and see how they all do. If Mudryk is great, no one will complain, about how much it costs. If Madueke is great, everyone will find it amazing. But if Madueke is bad, then people will argue it only costs 30 million. Jesse, you unmuted yourself. It looks like you want to add something. Go on.
Yeah, it's actually a midfielder. I don't know if Charlie or Pies have heard if Santos was granted his visa or not.
I have not. I just heard he played for the Brazil under-20s yesterday and did pretty well, apparently.
Oh, I have the stats from it. He was amazing. He captained the team and played number 6. So
very good.
two good things for us. So I'm wondering
that is
if,
too good. I mean, it's under 20s level, so
yeah,
you always got to keep a little bit of perspective about how much that actually means. But I don't know, Pies, have you heard? Has he been granted the work visa yet? I haven't heard it.
No, I think he applied for it just before January, so there's not been any update at the moment, as far as I'm aware on it. Sometimes it can take quite a while to make a decision. I think if he gets it, he can stay, can't he? But if he doesn't, you have to loan him back or something, apparently.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Well, I'm just asking if I just want it done in January so he gets registered, because this is one of those signings you need to watch out for. He's going to be amazing.
Let's hope so. I'm not actually sure how it works. If, say, the work visa comes in February, does that then mean we can't register him in time? Or can we register him but he still can't do anything until the work visa is then here? I'm not quite sure on the details of how the logistics of that work. Just super quickly, because obviously instead of Mudryk, Arsenal seem to have signed down to Trossard instead. Would anyone have preferred Trossard? Because obviously Arsenal fans are trying to twist things how they would have done. I certainly wouldn't have. I mean, I didn't even want Trossard when we weren't linked to any other wingers, because I'm like, number one, don't give me too many Brighton players. And when we buy Brighton players, let's buy the best ones, not the average ones, please. Or the decent ones. And also not the ones that are 27, or 28, whatever it is. Like, certainly not good enough for the age he's at, in my opinion. But I think the next bit of news that we need to discuss, because it is quite big, actually, and I'll start with you, Pi, so you can just, update us about all the latest situations before we all add our opinions to that. Now, yesterday, David Ornstein reported that Chelsea have had a £55 million bid rejected for Caicedo because it was far below Brighton's valuation, and they have no interest in letting him leave this January, which is interesting because I swear their manager said in a press conference, well, we'll see whether he stays. So I'm like, no interest clearly doesn't mean an absolute no, as long as you pay what they want. But they apparently want 75 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jacob Steinberg said that today, 75 million. And they've already started looking at potential replacements in case we obviously get to that. But I think it's interesting because, Ben Jacobs, who spoke to the Brighton CEO, said a few days ago that we offered 65 million. I mean, Ornstein's very reliable, but maybe Ornstein just tweeted out the base fee. But it's going to be a difficult one. I mean, it's a lot of money, but he's a quality player. For me, I just think, I mean, I know he's young as well. Like, he's 21, which is crazy because, to be honest, I thought like you, he was a bit older. So, I mean, even if you did actually pay 75 million, you'd probably put him on a stupid long contract again, and that would be fine. But I think it's just, I don't know, I would feel a little bit uncomfortable, depending on what the add-on, like if we do add-ons and stuff, then cool. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's a difficult one. We need a midfielder in, but that's a lot of money. Like, does that limit us then in the summer as to what we can do in the midfield, or like, what I mean? We're very unpredictable at the moment.
It's a very good point. And then to add it to well, like you said already, just to add to it of what Jacob Steinberg said, like you say, they are looking for potential replacements, but apparently we are also weighing up, coming in with another offer. So that's why it's difficult. It's a tough one for me because I guess the real judgment comes from how much do we believe in ourselves of still being able to pull something off this year, this season. Because if we back ourselves to do something in the Champions League with a new midfielder, well, then I guess a new midfielder now is worth it. If we back ourselves to still somehow get into the top four with an unbelievable run till the end of the season, then I guess a new midfielder would make sense. If we think even a new midfielder won't be enough to make either of those things happen, is it worth overpaying in January over just getting someone in the summer? Because yeah, the season won't maybe be as good as if we added a midfielder, but if it's about coming 5th or 6th or 7th, is that worth it overspending now then? That's where I'm a little bit less sure about. I know, Jester, you're not the biggest fan of Declan Rice, I'm aware. My issue, not issue, is maybe the wrong word, but my question mark about Moises Caicedo is that I could be wrong, but from I've been explained to by people that know more about him, and from what I've gathered myself, is that he's at least not a real DM. Not a real DM that will play as a single DM. At least not yet. He's 21, so obviously things can still change. But I feel like, even if, let's ignore Rice right now. It doesn't even matter whether it's Rice or another one. do we need an actual, like, proper real DM that is capable of playing alone as a DM? Do we need that more than someone of the style of Caicedo? You're shaking your head, Jester. Why is that your opinion?
Well, no, we don't, because I don't believe our manager wants to play with a singular DM. I think he wants to play with a double pivot, not a singular pivot. And when you do play with a double
Doesn't it
pivot,
still limit you, even if that's his main plan? Doesn't it still limit you if you still don't have one at the club that's going to be ideal? Because, you know, we can all have our opinions of Jorginho, good, bad, weaknesses, liability, whatever you want to think about him. He's going to be better in certain systems than he's going to be in other systems. But what our issues have been is that we weren't able to change systems because we have a player that only works in certain systems. So if we put ourselves in a situation like that, again, is that ideal? Not that I'm trying to compare Caicedo to Jorginho. Obviously, they have very different strengths, weaknesses, and all sorts. But
first of all, I don't consider Jorginho a DM. He's not. You have to be defensively sound, and if you want to think that Jorginho is going to lead your defense, well, you're going to give up a lot of goals. Caicedo can play as a singular six. Not that you're going to get the best out of him. Just like Santos played sometimes plays as a singular six for Brazil, not all the time. So it can be done. Plus, if you keep Zakaria as well for 25 million, then he can play as a singular six. He's done it for BMG in the Bundesliga.
He did it for us in one game as well. Like, obviously, we play this weird mix of 4-2-3-1, and I guess we just play a 4-2-3-1, and then one of the sixes is much more advanced than the other. And then in certain phases of play, there will be a single six, I suppose. That's always going to happen. Football is a fluid sport.
Right.
But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Are you a big fan of Caicedo? Do you think we should go for it now, even at the cost of £75 million, Justin?
Absolutely. Did you see what he did to our midfield the last time we played him? He looked like N'Golo Kante against us.
Well, yeah, but how many players do that to our midfield?
But again, if you can see it firsthand against our midfield, that this guy has qualities in him that we lack in our squad. And we do lack that tenaciousness when N'Golo Kante is not fit. And since he's not fit most of the time, you don't have it in your squad. So, yeah, for me, Caicedo's whatever. If they want 75 million, 75 million. And I tell you what, I know this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but I would even go so far as to use Chilwell as a make weight if that has to happen. Yeah, because we have just
that is
signed
probably
a
going to
young
ruffle some feathers. To be fair, Chilwell actually picked up a 6-week injury in training, unfortunately, muscle injury it seems. But yeah, okay, interesting. But hey, I'm not upset by people being excited about players that we're linked to. Do you know what I mean? If someone excited is better than none. Do you know what I mean? Charlie, what is your thoughts on the whole Caicedo situation? Now, apparently, £55 million rejected, even though, like Pies touched on, I think it was Ben Jacobs initially who said that we were testing the waters with 65 million. Sounds like Enzo all over again, where we're testing the waters with all sorts of things and then bid 85 for no reason. But sure. But Charlie, what is your perspective on this Caicedo situation? Number one, do you want Caicedo? Would you be willing?
Just do it. Just
£75 million right now.
Yeah, just do it, because the sort of the quality of midfield player that we're shopping for, one that's going to go in and hopefully be one of our midfield starters for the next 5+ years or whatever, and it's going to make a real difference. You're shopping in an area where there's very few top quality players that are going to be available. You're looking at it and you're thinking the 4 players that would be available this summer, probably Jude Bellingham, Enzo Fernandez, Declan Rice, and Caicedo. Those are probably the 4 names that you look at and think those are the standout names of kind of top level midfield players, or midfield players that are going to be available and make a difference to your team. I think we've already messed up on Enzo. Bellingham's going to be very difficult to do given who else is interested in us. Rice potentially could be an open goal for us. But again, are we that interested in Rice now compared to how much we were interested in before? I don't really know. Seems to have cooled a little bit, or maybe there's just no developments. But for Caicedo, I think it's just obvious to me. Not only are you buying a very good footballer already, You're buying someone that knows the Premier League. You're buying someone that knows Graham Potter, knows Potter's style of football. And you're also buying an immense potential as well. You're not buying a finished article by any means. You're buying someone that's 21 years of age and has got the ability to, over the next few years, turn into one of the very best midfield players around. And you're looking at £75 million potentially. And that's not going to all be up front. I'm sure that can be structured in a way where maybe 20 or 25 million pounds of that is add-ons. It's done over one of those long contracts, 7.5 years, and an option of another year, or whatever it is. So we can structure it favorably to make it a little bit easier on the books for us. But I don't see any downsides to going for Caicedo. I really don't. And if we're going to get a midfield player, yes, people can say, "I'll wait till the summer." Price might increase come the summer potentially, and you get more clubs that are available. So if we want him and it's possible to do it now, why wait? If we can get a march ahead of other teams, let's just get it done and let's just do it now.
Okay, I hear it. The only thing I would like to add to what you just said, the whole, knows the Premier League, knows Potter, hasn't really helped with Cucurella yet. It wouldn't be an instant, he wouldn't instantly come in and be like, start, tearing it up. But I think it's clear that he makes a massive That's
difference.
what I mean. I think you made a good point in terms of maybe he gets more expensive until the summer. That's maybe slightly more unlikely, but there's probably going to be more suiters. And if we're not in Europe, he might pick other suitors over us potentially. That is a fair point.
So we can do it now. I think we just need to do it now. There's no point waiting till the summer where we run the risk of him potentially picking someone else or whatnot. If we can get it done now, let's just do it.
What happens?
I was going to get to you. What are your thoughts?
I was just going to say to Charlie, I'm all for Caicedo, but what happens if we don't sign Caicedo now, and then that means we can get Enzo in the summer because there's more chance to negotiate.
I mean, if the option was don't sign Caicedo now, and you can definitely get Enzo in the summer, then maybe I'd be more inclined to go for that. But the fact is, do we want to end up in a situation where we don't sign Caicedo this month because we think we've got more of a chance of Enzo, and then Enzo picks a Real Madrid or he goes somewhere else, and then we've missed out on two players like that? That's I suppose the other side of it. So I think if we can get it done now, for me, it just makes sense to do it. And I think I've got to be honest. Honestly, you never say never with Chelsea and Todd Bowley and stuff in the market, but I do think the Enzo thing's dead for us. I just can't envisage a situation where he's in a Chelsea shirt next season.
Yeah, I mean, the only way, someone said it just in the chat, Enzo's 100% not joining us unless we win the Champions League. Yeah, I mean, I kind of is he really going to pick us again in the summer when he has probably other options if we're not in the Champions League? And for that, we will either have to win the Champions League or somehow miraculously still make top four. It's a tough one. I guess it's a risk management that the higher ups at Chelsea, that the recruitment system need to weigh up. And I think, Paisi, it's a fair point to bring up. It's just, obviously, we don't know the ins and outs in every detail. So I guess it's up to the people in charge that need to make that decision. Is there any sort of realistic possibility of us getting Enzo in the summer? Then maybe save yourself the Caicedo now. But if that is a very small possibility that we can pull Enzo off in the summer, I guess at that point you might as well go for Caicedo now. But again, another thing that you need to weigh up in that question is how much would he cost in the summer? If in the summer a 55 million pound offer is going to be enough, which I don't know, it might not be. But if that were to be the case, then, and you say, okay, we're signing him now though, then would people complain even more than they did about the Joao Felix fee? Because Joao Felix costing us 11 million pounds for 6 months, or is it 11 million euros for 6 months? By that theory, by that logic, if Caicedo would cost 55 in the summer and 75 now, there would be 20 million for 6 months. So that would arguably be even worse. But we just don't know if that will be possible. I mean, Pies, do we have any inkling whatsoever what his price could potentially be in the summer? Caicedo, I mean.
Oh, Caicedo, I mean...
Yeah.
I honestly don't think he goes for much less than this. I know there might be honestly, at most, I think there's a £10 million premium on this. I think he could go for 65 in the summer. I don't think he's definitely worth around that for sure, especially with his age. But I don't think he goes for much less than what we'd be paying now. Yeah, honestly, I don't, because I think as Charlie said, you look at the sort of four to five midfielders who, I mean, Caicedo has been linked with Liverpool, him and Bellingham. Bellingham's going to be much more. Enzo is going to be more. You've got Rice, who's probably going to go for, probably 85, and he's so. And then probably Caicedo would probably be the cheaper one, but it's not going to be much cheaper because
it's not going to be much cheaper.
because the thing is as well in the summer, like when these sales go, like when teams like start buying, Bellingham and whoever gets Rice or whatever, like Brighton's board is very, very smart at selling players. They're going to get the absolute maximum price. They're going to look at that and think, well, they're going to value Caicedo at what they think he's worth. So I don't think it will be much cheaper in the summer at all. Otherwise, I feel like if Chelsea had that, inkling, then I feel like we wouldn't even be going for it now, to be honest. So
okay, yeah, it's also a fair point to make. I'm mostly basing this, or where at least the kind of the inspiration for the question came from, is because of the comments that the Serbi made in terms of that where he said, oh yeah, let's see if he stays with us this window, maybe basically saying it would be better if he stayed until the summer and then it's good if he leaves or whatever. The fact that the manager said it's good if he leaves in the summer, even if it doesn't, maybe price is right in terms of actual price, maybe it doesn't change that much. I think in terms of what Charlie brought up in terms of payment structure, how much are they going to give us in bonuses? I think they're probably going to allow us a more favorable deal from our perspective, even if the final sum is not going to be that different, simply by the fact that they don't really want to sell now and they are happy to sell in the summer. At least that's what it sounds like. And Brighton are not in need for money. Brighton don't need to say yes to anything. We could offer 150 million. They could say no if they wanted. They're not desperate for anything. So I don't think you can necessarily compare it to, like, say, a Mudryk deal where, as much as Shakhtar didn't necessarily need the money, they're still in a situation where they're like aware, well, we're in a country that's in the middle of a war. We're not even playing in our home city. Well, they haven't played their home city for years. But they're probably going to be more likely to let one of their guys, a Ukrainian, leave to a big club abroad than Brighton are to let their guy go off to another Premier League club when they're not in need of money. So I'm not sure how likely it is we'll get such a favorable just payment structure. But I guess I honestly, I haven't really made my mind up yet. I'm more just going to sit here and wait what Chelsea do. If they pay it, good. We'll see how it goes. If they don't, we'll see how the rest of the season goes and see if it was a bad or a good move. To me, it's, like I say, it's just a bit of I'm not fully decided on it. Maybe people find that a bit of a cop-out. I don't know. But it's just like I say, to me, if Caicedo can help us get top 4, do well in the Champions League, great. But we won't know that until he's here, will we? So there's always, but as with any transfer, there's always going to be a bit of a question mark, I suppose. Let me get to the super chat by Artem. Appreciate it very much as always. He says, some Chelsea fans think that Enzo, who has looked great in 25 games, is worth 120 million. But Caicedo, who has looked great since last January, is not worth 75 million. Now, maybe some fans do think that, some fans do say that, but I don't even think it's necessarily about who's worth what and who's worth what again. It's more like, who do people think is better? I think Enzo has more qualities that are more rare to find than Caicedo does. But also because on the basis of how I think we want to play football, I had my complaints. Like, people say he's like Kante, but I had my issues with even Kante at best fitness for the last couple of years. I'm like, is that the solution to everything? To bring another Kante in? Because a lot of people still complain about Kante even when he was fit. I know now that he's been injured for a while, people say he was the greatest player of all time until the second he got injured. But as revisionism, because he's been injured for so long, people forget the issues that we also had with him when he was fit. Also, obviously, depends on system. Like, you can certainly use him better than, in other ways. But what's your reaction to this, Charlie? Do you see what Artem is talking about in terms of, why do we think the one guy's worth everything and the other one isn't? Or some fans, obviously, you guys have said just buy him for 75 anyway.
Probably because they look at his trophy cabinet and think he's better, basically. Because he's won a World Cup and he's won a Copa America, they probably look at that and think, oh, he must be better then because he's won these trophies. Now, I'm not saying that, Enzo Fernandez is not going to go and be a better player than Moises Caicedo. He quite feasibly could easily go and do that. But I don't know. I think for me, it's a no-brainer to get Caicedo done now. It really is. And I think we'd be making a mistake if we kind of left it to the summer, or we thought we could wait till the summer and then either Brighton raise their price, they change their mind, someone else comes in from, he decides to go elsewhere because he's got a Champions League team. I mean, admittedly, if he's prepared to sign now when the chances are we're not going to be playing European football in the Champions League next season, then you could argue that, all right, he'd probably come in the summer, but it's not worth leaving these things to chance. We've neglected the midfield for so many years now. If we want this guy, just do the deal now. I don't want to see us miss out on any midfield targets because we're trying to be smart or whatever. Just go and do it now. We've seen Bowley and Clearlake and stuff be ruthless in the market. They're prepared to put the money on the table if they want players. They're prepared to invest. This is a player that we need. It's a player that improves us. It's a player that improves the midfield, and he's someone that's going to be here for a long time. So it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I hear it. Ashraf made a good point in the chat. The super chat is slightly misleading in terms of it's 120 million euros versus 75 million pounds. 120 million euros being 105 million pounds. So the gap isn't 120 to 75, it's 105 to 75. So it's like 30 million different. Still a difference, absolutely. So, the question is still valid. Just, so people might not get misled. Jester, anything you want to add? I mean, you've already stated your clear preference or love for Caicedo. What are your thoughts on Enzo instead, though? Would you prefer Caicedo over Enzo, disregarding the price situation, or would you then prefer Enzo if you were given the option between those two?
No, I want them both.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. But
I want Caicedo to play in the pivot next to Enzo, because yes, Enzo's a little bit more gifted passing and offensively, where Caicedo's more gifted defensively. But it's not like he cannot do the offensive side. He does have skills going forward as well. So I see them as the perfect double pivot. If you're going to play a true double pivot where each side can both play defense and start attacks, where you don't have to pass the ball to one singular person to jumpstart your attack like we do with Jorginho, then they complement each other. Probably the best pairing you could probably put back there. Because, again, Caicedo's a little bit more defensive-minded than Enzo, but Enzo's got a little bit better touch with the passes and is a little bit more offensively gifted around the final third. So, for me, they're a perfect complement. And I think that's still the plan, is to get both of them.
I mean, that will be a very ambitious plan for sure. I mean, I was just going to say, I'm not sure quite how realistic it is that to get both shares purely for price reasons. I guess, hey, if you think that is the plan, I hope you're right. Essentially, that's all I can say.
Well, look at those who are leaving. If you're going to bring in Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo at the prices you're bringing them in, they're starters. So which means Jorginho's gone, which means probably Kovacic is gone. So it's not like there won't be money coming in to be able to facilitate spending a little bit more than.
But then who's going to be the backups? And what if then Caicedo or Enzo are injured? Are we then just
you've got
to cry for new midfilders? Or
no. I think you're going to re-sign Kante, and he's going to be a spot player because he's breaking down. You could get Zakaria as well, or Zakaria, however you want to say it. There's another backup. You've got Santos, who I guarantee. I don't care if he's young, he's ready to play in this league. He's got the skill set to play in this league. So you've got that. You've got your bench because you're playing with two defensive-minded midfielders and one 10, and that will be your Nkunku's. Probably the only place Mount could play in that system would be in that 10 role because he definitely can't play deeper.
No,
or has not shown the ability.
Not as of yet, anyway. No, right. I mean, maybe once late in his career we'll transition to that. But I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I'm just not sure how realistic it is. But I hope you're right because hey, what a dream it would be to have both. Absolutely, I do agree. I think the next topic that I want to discuss before we finally get into talking about the Liverpool versus Chelsea game is just one last topic, guys. The Mason Mount situation. I can just bring up the same tweet that I had up a minute ago because Jacob Steinberg did add to it kind of below and Pies added it below as well. Chelsea yet to meet Mason Mount's wage demands. And then if I scroll down quickly here in Pies' page, Chelsea step up Mount contract talks who wants a big rise to show the club value him and Liverpool plotting a summer move. I kind of have an inkling about both Jester's and Pies' opinion on this because I've spoken to them about it a little bit. Well, I know Chester enough to know what he thinks about this anyway, and also he replied to my tweet. I spoke to Pies about it. But Charlie, what are your thoughts on this? Because, and I tweeted this a couple of hours before the stream, to me, being willing to let Mason Mount go to Liverpool is insane. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to think he needs to stay at the club. That everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But to let him go to Liverpool, in my opinion, would be insane. To let him go to, frankly, any Premier League rival, which is obviously where he's most likely going to go if he was to leave because he's English. But to me, that would just be insane. And I also... It's just been in bad form, man. How many players have been in bad form? Like, I'm not saying he's always been amazing and great. So I guess it depends on the wage demands, but I don't think we should and can just sit here and say, it's outrageous that we even, that he wants a raise. Like, he's on £75,000 a week. It's less than Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek. If I'm Mason Mount, I am losing my flipping shit at seeing Callum Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek being paid more than I am. And yes, we can complain about, he doesn't deserve it now. True, probably, that he doesn't deserve the wage raise that he wants now. But it's our own fault for not offering him a raise when he did warrant it. Do you know what I mean? And now we're in a situation where he still wants it, but we don't want to give it to him. And then we end up with another flipping Rudiger situation where we're in hindsight fuming about a player that leaves because we're going to replace him with some shithead from somewhere. I shouldn't say that, but, with some player that's not as good as we all would have hoped in Koulibaly, where I'm like, come on, man, be better. Everyone was telling me how amazing he is, and then he isn't. Do you know what I mean? At least so far. I'm not saying that's necessarily always going to be the case if we sell Mason Mount, but I don't know. But I do agree if the reports, and there have been a few, of 300k a week, that's insane. No, man, you're not getting 300k. Come on. Someone slap him on the back of the head a little bit and tell him, come on, sort yourself out. You're not getting 300k. If he's asking 200k, which is still a lot of money, but I'm like, you still did your bit. And if Mason Mount's value isn't going to go. So, like, even if we give him a new contract, if we then decide he's not good enough, we can still sell him for huge money in the next few years if we so choose to do that. But not giving him a contract and having the potential of him running it down and losing him for free would just be mind-bogglingly stupid after what, especially considering how many players we need to probably get rid of below value anyway, just to have a squad clear out. So to me, it just seems a little bit of insanity, but I understand that a lot of it depends on how much he's actually demanding, and there's been various reports. But Charlie, what is your thoughts on the whole thing? Like, do you think, number one, where's your limit? Like, is there a limit in terms of you can have that, but no more than that? Or are you just give him a new contract? Or do you think don't? Maybe you think
no. I'd give him a new contract. Look, I think it's unfortunate that the negotiations are taking place when he is in his worst form he's been in his Chelsea career. So I can understand when negotiations are taking place at that point in time. Then you can see why people would say, "Oh, he doesn't deserve that," because they're just thinking about the now. And if you were purely basing it on his form this season, then you would say, no, he doesn't. He wouldn't deserve that level of pay rise on this next contract. But if you actually sit back and think about it, let's just look at it. Obviously Mount, he's on 75k a week, I think. He's obviously one of the lowest earning players in the first team. You said that the likes of Callum and Ruben are on, almost twice as much as he's being paid. This is a guy that, has won back-to-back Player of the Year awards for us in the last 2 seasons. And he's earning less than half of what Havertz, Lukaku was on, Kepa, Werner, Saul.
Times of what Raheem Sterling.
Yeah. So on that, are people saying that Mount doesn't deserve a pay rise based on that? Like that for me, I can't understand how anyone could arrive at a conclusion that Mount doesn't deserve a pay rise on this next contract. I think that's very clear that everyone would agree that he deserves a pay rise. Whether he deserves the money that he thinks, whether he deserves the money that he's potentially asking for or his team are asking for, that's a different conversation. But then you can also argue, is anyone really worth the money they're paid other than the likes of Haaland, De Bruyne, certain players, Messi, Mbappe, the top bracket, even Reece James Reece James at Chelsea, full well that you're going to get 9 out of 10 performances from him more weeks than not. So I think there's 2 questions to it. Does Mount deserve a pay rise? Yes. I think for me, for the reasons I've given, 100%. Yeah. Does he deserve the money that he's asking for or his team are asking for? That's where it's a little bit different. I think I can fully understand why he would be asking for this money. He wants to feel valued by the club. He wants to be on parity with the guys towards the higher end of the earning scale at the club. and you can understand why he's been a back-to-back player of the year, as I said, instrumental in that Champions League run. And he's on less than half the money that some of these other guys are on that haven't performed anywhere near as well as he has over the last couple of years. So you can fully understand that. And for me, where it's difficult, and I think where people are getting, not annoyed about it, where people are just saying, "Oh, get rid of him. He doesn't deserve this" or whatever, is that it's because negotiations happen to be taking place when he's playing so badly, and that obviously doesn't help anyone's cause. Because for myself, I don't think like this, but people will think like, "Oh, how can he be asking for this much in a new contract because he's playing whilst he's playing how he is right now, which is not good enough." And I think everyone's accepting that he's not playing well enough. But he has shown over the last 2 seasons that he can be a very good performer for Chelsea. Right now, he shouldn't be playing as much as he is. I think he's probably playing because of the lack of options we've got available. And he should be I think he can be a very good squad player, but he can also be a very important part of the team. So I think that he deserves, in this new contract, to sort of finally get to my point, I think he deserves to sign a new contract. And if it's around the £200,000 mark, then the option is, would you rather pay Mason Mount 200 grand a week or lose him to Liverpool? So for me, the thought of him going to Liverpool and balling out under Klopp, which I think he would do very well there, then that, for me, I'd rather pay Mount 200k a week than see him go to Liverpool and have the kind of the what if again. So yes, he deserves a new contract. Money is always going to be a debate amongst people. But ultimately, as long as he's performing on the pitch, I don't care if he's paid 75k or if he's paid 200k. Just put the performances on the pitch, and the money is it doesn't come into people's thinking if you're playing well. So yeah, I think he deserves a new contract, but the money, I can see why people would be arguing about it just based on the fact that his performances have been really poor this season.
Yeah, no, mate, I hear you. I will go through the panel in order of what I think their opinion is. I mean, they might not be true, and I could be wrong, but I think so anyway. But this comment did make me chuckle. Bro, as Johnny, isn't that enough? That is funny. Pice, what are your thoughts on this? You say that there has to be a limit. What limit do you have in mind where you're like, that's okay to pay him in wages, and from a certain number, it's then not okay?
Well, it's quite difficult because we don't know. Steinberg and a few others reporting that, his demands. We don't know exactly what he wants, but there have been reports in the last months that he wants to be up the high earners of Chelsea, which would be up to the very high earners of Chelsea, which would be more than even 250,000. So, I think for me, with what we're trying to do as well in terms of these new incentivized contracts, I think if Mount's not happy to take 150, 160k that could go up to, plus 200 based on performances, then, so be it. I think we have to make a decision there. I don't think this is a player that you keep at absolutely all costs because he loves Chelsea. I just don't. That's just my personal opinion. Even if it is Liverpool, I don't rate him as highly as Reece James. So Reece James for me was an absolute must keep at even 400 grand. Like for me, Reece James is that guy. He's that good. He's world class. There's no one better in the world.
Yeah, he just plays in the wrong position.
Yeah, but still, there's no one better in the world, and you see, and how much of an impact a right back has on our team is absolutely absurd. I've never seen anything like it in football. But Mount, more often than not, the last few months has been the one that's been starting, and we've been getting annoyed with him. So, for me, he's got to accept some incentivized contract, and if he's not happy to do that, then that just means he's not happy to reach goals for money, which I think is ridiculous. So. Let's see. Let's offer him an incentivized contract that could go above 200 grand a week if he hits goals, like goals and assists, that type of thing. And if he's not happy to do that, then I'm sorry, but bye-bye.
I hear it. I mean, obviously we've been told that, Bowley wants to give everyone those kind of contracts, performance incentivized contracts with less so of a base wage and then quite high in bonuses. There's been a couple of people in the chat that were talking about Koulibaly's wages, and there was different reports I remember from the summer about Koulibaly's wages. But I feel like more and more I keep hearing about 295k that apparently Koulibaly is on. I just beg that's not true. I just beg that's before tax, that number, and after tax it's like significantly lower than that. I just beg that's the case. Because my God, if we're paying Koulibaly 300k, then quite frankly, Mason Mount should be demanding 500. If I'm being perfectly honest. Also compared to Raheem Sterling, if I'm being honest. But hey, Jester, what is your thoughts on this? Do you even want to see it as, up in the air, or you just don't give him a new contract no matter what he wants?
Well, there's a part of me that wants to see him go, so his fanboys go with him. I'm sure people
Will
think that.
Happen, though? It's going to be interesting.
Well, there's
League,
at least
those
one of them
fanboys
that is his wagon to this guy.
Yeah.
I if he does leave, he's got nothing, no other content to go to, right?
Like no matter who the player is, other than Reece James, every stan is annoying in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But if you look at Mason Mount, the bulk of his numbers in the Premier League come against the bottom half of the league. He doesn't really do a lot against the teams that we are competing against, right? Your Liverpools, your Man Cities, your Man United, the cream of the crop. He's not there. He doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, you got to show a little bit more in that department. Secondly, I really struggle to see how he makes his teammates around him better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're one of these people who get your numbers and you look good, but you're not making the team better around you, then you're not, number one, you're not a starter. You need to be coming off the bench. And number two, you're not integral to the team. I want to sign players at Chelsea that make the players around them better about the way they play. For instance, Enzo Fernandez made Argentina better when he started starting in the World Cup. If you watch their first couple games, they didn't look like they were doing anything until he came on the pitch.
True.
Okay? I can't say that about Mason Mount. Can't say that. He doesn't come on the pitch and instantly raise the level of the team.
No.
It's just.
Although, Mike, I would counter that question with, outside of Reece James, who does at Chelsea right now?
Well, that's
Thiago
why
Silva.
I guess that's why we are where we are, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
So Chilwell, I think, makes people better when he plays as well.
When he's fit, not maybe the
Yes.
Chilwell we've seen this season, but yeah, no, I agree with you. Actually. It is a difficult one because I sit here and I listen to Jester who says, this and that. And I don't even disagree with most of the things he says. And I even agree that Mason Mount shouldn't be starting as many games as he is. Now, part of it very recently have been obviously injuries, that's somewhat limited options. And then also somewhat limited options that have even a bit of experience, because obviously we had a lot of more senior players get injured and a lot of younger players available. But I still agree that he shouldn't just start all the time when he's not playing well. But that conversation is a separate conversation from his contract, because a football club never exists on 11 players. A football club doesn't even exist on 12 players or 15. You need players there. And I just think financially, from a business standpoint, with how many players, including Kai Havertz, there's been rumors that he might go to Bayern Munich for something as low as 35 to 52 million pounds in the summer. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see whether that's true. But if we're going to sell players for that much of a cut price, and it's going to be a lot of them, it's going to be Havertz, it's going to be Lukaku. Well, it might be Havertz, it's going to be Lukaku, it's going to be potentially Christian Pulisic, it's going to be Hakim Ziyech. We're not going to get the money for we paid for him. Conor Gallagher is probably one of those few that we will get a decent amount of money from. Are we even going to get even remotely close to the money back for Koulibaly if we choose to sell him? Same goes for Raheem Sterling. I doubt it. So then if you're selling that many players for a cut price, can you really afford to just not meet? Like, it depends on what his wage demands are. If he's genuinely demanding anything even remotely close to 300k, 275, unless it's just super heavy. Like if he gets 300k, if he scores 3 goals a week, and then that week he's paid 300k, fair play. If you score 3 goals, you can have 300k. But on every other basis, you shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'm like, but I still don't think from a business and also football club point of view, it's a smart decision to even consider him letting his contract run out. It will be such a calamity, in my opinion, that we just cannot afford. I know he obviously he's not as good as Kevin De Bruyne. He's not as good as Mo Salah either. But if anyone tells me that they thought Mo Salah would be a superstar player while he was at Chelsea, you are lying. And you're purely living in revisionism. Mo Salah at Chelsea barely looked like a professional footballer. Did you see his shot that he had in that cup? He hit the corner. He didn't even hit the corner flag. Put it out for a throw-in when he tried to go for top corner. Do you know what I mean? Mace Man has done that yet. Do you know what I mean? And then look at how Mo Salah turned out. So, and I mean, I say this for a lot of players. I think people sometimes forget, just because they started young, they still forget how young a 23-year-old is. Excuse me. Now, Mason Mount isn't going to play until 38 like Thiago Silva, most likely. But he's 15 whole years younger than Thiago Silva. Think about how long 15 years ago is. What were you doing 15 years ago? Some of the people watching probably weren't even alive 15 years ago. You know what a big difference that is? 23 is still very young, and you're still a lot of time left to improve. And that goes for all of our young players. So just because someone's in bad form now, in my opinion, doesn't mean they're just in general bad. So it's a tough one. Again, I'm just going to sit here and see, well, let's see what they're going to do. Are we going to give him the contract? In the end, we just have to deal with whatever comes out of it anyway, you know? That's the only solution. I'm not sure, Sikanda, why you keep saying Thiago Silva, if we're being perfectly honest. Oh, he's as Mount already turned 24. Well, not 23 then. Just turned 24. My apologies. But let's move on to talking about tomorrow's game. Before that, ladies and gentlemen, we have 300 people watching. Please be sure to subscribe, smash the like button, and hit the notification bell button as well. That'd be massively appreciated. But what we need to discuss ahead of tomorrow's game is a bit of injury news, because we have positive injury news. Reece James, team training. Ben Chilwell, team training. N'Golo Kante apparently back in individual training, but of course still going to be out until the end of February, beginning of March. And who else is back from some sort of injuries? We don't even know. Sterling is still nowhere to be seen. Loftus-Cheek is back, of course. Loftus-Cheek is back, that is true. And Loftus-Cheek is actually the only one of those recovering players that might, in any form, get minutes tomorrow. He was already on the bench against Palace, but according to Potter, he was just there for the sake of it, and now he might be ready to get some minutes. But none of Reece James or Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell, we expected that, but Reece James will not be included in tomorrow's squad. So I was maybe hoping for a 20-minute cameo, but seems like we're not going to get that. Fair enough, no problem. We've got 2 weeks after this one. I assume he'll be fit to start that against Fulham then. But we also have Mudryk, who Graham Potter spoke about and said, well, there's a chance he makes his debut. He just said he can't play 90, but he never specified, does that mean he can start and play 60? Does that mean he will come off the bench? We don't know. So now that we play Liverpool with a lot of injuries, and I want to start with you, Pies, and we know we don't have Reece James. Do you have any hope?
I mean, the bad thing is that it's an early kickoff, and you guys know what early kickoffs mean to Chelsea. Are usually absolutely terrible. But no, I mean, it'll be an interesting game. But it's two teams that are not doing very well this season. I think, what are they, like 1 or 2 places above us? Not many points above us.
One,
like,
it's 9th against 10th, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're both doing terrible this season. I think we just need to, if we defend well tomorrow, I think we can definitely get a result. Absolutely. That's why I think picking the defense will be important and interesting. But yeah, I think we can get a result. I just don't know if we've got enough in attack, whether Mudryk will start or not. You know, I don't know if we've got enough there to really hurt them. But I mean, it just depends how the game goes. The good thing about Liverpool is playing Liverpool, they always give you a chance in behind. They always give you those moments where you can counter or you can play a through ball, and if you time it right, you're in on goal. So they haven't got Van Dijk either. You know, Trent and Robertson, they've not been. I mean, defensively, they've not been very good, either of them. So we can get at them. And their fans have been moaning about their midfield as well. I think Fabinho has been pretty poor this season. They're playing some young guy in midfield at the moment from their academy. So, look, I mean, we're in a good position to go and get a result. Don't know about winning, but that's only if we defend well, because they've still got a lot of threats up front. I mean, everyone moans. Everyone laughs at Darwin Nunez, and I do too, when he misses the chances. But this guy's got an incredible knack of actually getting through and getting, 3, 4, 5 chances a game. And it's like, his pace is incredibly scary. That's one thing about him. So we need to be absolutely on the ball tomorrow and defend really well and deny him that space in behind, because I think if we do that, we can definitely frustrate them. And potentially win, but we'll do the score prediction later. But I think we have a chance depending on how, especially how we start the game as well. If we start slow and we let Liverpool into it because they're going to be at home, they're going to be up for it. It could be a long afternoon for us. But if we start well, then I think you get in at half time, maybe you draw or even winning. I think we can do something tomorrow.
Let's hope so. I'm always happy when there's an optimistic price because we don't always get to see it. So when it's there, I love it. Charlie, what about you? Are you disappointed when we found out that Reece James isn't going to be involved tomorrow? Or are you like, sure, a little bit disappointed because we always want to see him play because he gives us a better chance of winning? But in the end, you'd rather it this way and play more cautiously this time round than we did last time round than him come off injured again.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I honestly, I didn't expect him to be featuring in this game. In all honesty, yeah, it's kind of disappointing. You see him full training, you see the pictures of him training, you think, oh, maybe there's a chance. But I think we've learnt with Reece that, it's better to err on the side of caution, give it another couple of weeks of training, use him against Fulham at home at Stamford Bridge in a couple of Fridays' time. I think that's a much better way of going around it. So I didn't expect him to feature anyway. But in terms of the game itself, it's going to be interesting because it's 9th versus 10th. I think we're on the same amount of points as they are. And it's hard to get good results at Anfield, but you would say that probably now is one of the best times to play Liverpool. But on the flip side, it's also one of the best times to play Chelsea as well because we're both terrible. Now, I think, as Pi said, if we defend well, then I think we've got every chance of picking up a positive result, whether that's a win or whether that's taking a point back to Stamford Bridge with us. I think we've got that opportunity to do that. Liverpool, as Pi again said, they'll give us opportunities to get in behind. It's just whether we can take advantage of those opportunities with the attackers that we're likely to be fielding tomorrow. I'd love to see Mudryk play, but I think from Potter's comments, it seems unlikely that he'll start. I envisage more him coming off the bench. You've got to remember this guy's played no football since November. That's when obviously Ukrainian league stopped and whatnot. Because for obvious reasons. So he's not exactly match sharp. Yeah, he might be physically fit, but is he match fit? Probably not. So I'd be very surprised if he started. I'd love him to start, but I can't. I personally don't envisage him starting. So yeah, it's going to be, can we be defensively solid and can we make the most of the few opportunities that we do create? And with Chelsea, that's two massive doubts. We could do it, or we could just not do it at all, and we could easily get hammered. So, I look at it as like a bit of a potential not turning point as such, but we win at Anfield. That's a big confidence boost, and there's a few new faces through the door. There's a bit of a buzz around the place again, and you think, right, maybe we can push on here and move closer towards those top 4 spaces, top 5, top 6, or whatever. Just get ourselves further up the pitch. Likewise, a defeat and that optimism of getting the win against Palace and those new signings coming through the door, that's soon forgotten about again. And it can easily go the other way as well. So, yeah, it's going to be tight, but I feel optimistic that we could actually get a result here tomorrow.
Hey, it would be incredible if we could. It would be incredible. Chester, let me get to you. Less so surprised about Reece James, just not having Reece James, not having Ben Chilwell, also not having Joao Felix for very unfortunate reasons. Do you see us having a chance tomorrow? Because Pice is absolutely spot on in what he says. Liverpool will leave gaps in behind. The problem that we have is that we are really bad at exploiting gaps in behind, because if there's one thing we're really bad at, it's attacking quickly. When we need to attack quickly, that's when we lose the ball the quickest every time we try, I feel like. And unfortunately, that's been an issue in this team, in my opinion, since Antonio Conte left, really, that we've just not been very good at counter-attacking or just attacking fast. But do you still give us a chance tomorrow? And I will also take this into our lineup conversation. Would you go with a back 4 tomorrow, or would you go with a back 5?
Back 4. I don't want to see a back 5. Because they already have a bad midfield, and you don't want to give them any leg up by outnumbering us 3-2 in the midfield. So if we can actually exploit their midfield right now, you need to have 3 players in there. If it's a 2-1 or a 1-2, you got to have 3 of them in there. So Darwin is fit now. I thought he was out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was injured.
No, he's back.
Oh, he is back?
Yeah, I don't know whether to start, but Klopp said he's in contention. So
Okay, so but he's not 100%.
Yeah.
Just coming back from injury.
But how long was he
and-
out for? He wasn't out for long, was he?
Few games, at least 2 games.
Yeah,
I think he
okay.
was.
I guess we'll have to see. But go on, sorry.
I'm not really worried about that guy. Is Sterling fit, or is he still out?
He's still out. He's not in training, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so he's still not there. And did Madueke get registered in time to play tomorrow?
Well, I mean, we haven't announced it yet, so I doubt it.
Well, I mean, they said everything was signed this morning.
That is true. That is true. But did he train with the team today? Because obviously, I assume we flew to Liverpool in the afternoon, so we would have had an early training session.
I mean,
Meaning, if he only had his medical in the morning, he probably wouldn't have been able to train with the team, would he?
if you want to see a video of him, just go on my.
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring that up actually. I will.
Yeah, there's a video of him in a like one of our training kits or a sort of kit. So,
yeah.
He's obviously. I don't know why they've not announced it yet, but that was from today. So.
Yeah,
okay, so I'm seeing no.
Maybe
yes,
we're just going to
yes,
announce
no.
another player in the middle of a game again, because that's what we do nowadays. Who knows?
Well, it looks like nobody actually knows if he's registered or not. So,
No.
yeah, I'm not too fussed about Liverpool at this moment.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right then. But there's the video, ladies and gentlemen. Noni Madueke exclusive footage here by Chelsea FC 365. Link is down in the description as well. Not to their Twitter, but to the actual website. But yeah, it's a good question why we haven't announced it. It looks like he's having flipping lunch. I mean, probably had his medical. Maybe they doing, obviously PR, they have to take the pictures. Maybe they're recording an interview. Maybe they're waiting for those kind of things. Who knows? At the end of the day, I personally doubt he'll be involved tomorrow. Maybe it's going to be a situation like when David Fofana was sat on the bench, not on the bench, like on the stands behind the bench against Forest. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's one of those. But let's take it into talking about who we think. I mean, EPL TFC is not registered in time. Okay, fair, if that's the case. But regardless, let's get through the team and see who we want to start. And Charlie, by the way, if you need to head off with someone, just let me know, maybe with a couple of minutes in advance. And
I've got 10, 15 minutes, mate. That's cool.
All right, brilliant. I'll start with you. Again, not really much of a conversation because Mendy isn't back from injury anyway. And I mean, I don't think we're going to start Slonina out of nowhere. So Kepa and goal, yeah?
Yeah, for sure, mate. But probably the reason why we actually beat Palace, 2 great saves in the game at Stamford Bridge, and he needed that performance, obviously, after a couple of poor games, that fault for the winner against Fulham, and then he could have done better of that cross at City for the Mahrez goal at Stamford Bridge. So, a timely return to form for him, or a bit of a confidence boost. So, yeah, he's obviously going to play. Mendy's still not fit, and obviously Slonina's not going to play. So, yeah, it's an obvious choice.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, Jester, outrageous shout for Slonina from your end?
It's not outrageous.
It's a little bit outrageous.
You act like we have world beaters at goalkeeper. We don't. We have quite average keepers. If we really want to, rank them, they're not great. But yeah, it's gonna be Kepa. But
yeah, no, it will be.
I like to be a little outrageous from time to time. So.
Hey, don't we all, mate? Don't we all? Pies Kepa, yeah, I assume you agree. I mean, obviously, we criticised him, and rightfully so, after that City game, after that goal. Charlie touched on it, and the same for Fulham. But we also praised him, rightly so, after the Palace game. Now, Chester is not wrong. He's still not the best keeper in the world. Even if he still has, I think, the best save percentage in the Premier League this season. So no different, really, to all the hype that Mendy got in his first season. He just didn't have a bad season before because it was his first season. Now he had a bad season because, in my opinion, he's a worse goalkeeper. But, people will have their different opinions on that. He's just a bit taller. But Pies Kepa, yeah, I assume there's not much to add.
Yeah, it's got to be Kepa.
Good. Let's get to the centre-backs then. And I will just say it straight up as I feel it. If Badiashile is dropped for Koulibaly, I want Potter sacked tomorrow. No, I don't. But in my opinion, it would be absolutely outrageous if Badiashile, after the way he debuted against Palace, gets dropped to the bench again.
Yeah, it'd be criminal.
Now, Potter, after the game, explaining, we thought Koulibaly just played a few too many games recently, blah, blah, blah. Waffle. Badiashile's better. Play him. Right? Just flipping play him. I have absolutely no sympathy for playing Koulibaly tomorrow. Obviously, he should be teamed up with Thiago Silva. But Charlie, are you in agreement? Yeah.
Yeah, it was same back four as last time. I think for me.
I think
Hull's
injured.
not Cucurella.
I thought
I thought Cucurella was unavailable for family reasons, or was that why he'd been on the bench recently?
How I took it from the press conference, what I heard, everyone can give their thoughts in a second. It's just because he was basically asked why is Cucurella not played recently, but he wasn't a bench every time. And then Potter basically said, yeah, settling in, not in best form, had some family issues as well recently. So I don't think it's a current.
I thought that was I maybe slightly misheard that or misinterpreted it. I thought he was saying he was unavailable. I'd probably still play Hall anyway, but I thought he meant that Cucurella was unavailable.
Okay. I'm pretty sure he's not unavailable, but maybe that's why I find it weird though, because he said the family issues, but he's been on the bench every time. So I'm like, how bad can the family issues be if he was on the bench every time? So obviously, I don't want to judge.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's nothing but fair. So that also means Chalobah again on the right hand side. Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I think so, because the other alternative is not worth thinking about.
No, it's very true. Okay, I'll put your back four on screen for now. I go to Jester. Is that the same back four you would play? Would you bring Cucurella back in? Again, we obviously don't know the quite exact details of why or why not he may or may not have featured recently or may not be available and playing tomorrow.
So I'm surprised that Hall is fit. I know he had a knock. He came out. I don't know if it was cramping or he pulled something.
But he wasn't training all week as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so he's fit. So let me explain why it's going to be Hall. You have to have some width somewhere on your pitch. And if you're playing Chalobah on the right, he's not an attacking fullback. You have to have at least one attacking fullback.
Yeah.
And Cucurella really isn't that guy. And Hall has shown the ability to overlap, give you some width on the left-hand side. And that's why you can play James and Cucurella. And Cucurella can stay back and do build-up play, because you've got attack down the right. So
I agree.
I think this is perfectly fine for me.
Even at Anfield, you go with Lewis Hall?
I think so, because we have to find some way forward. And if you're playing 3-on-5 when you get the ball in the final third, you're not going to be very successful. It doesn't matter what players are back there. It's still numbers. The only thing I would say is, because Koulibaly played left back at the end of the last game.
He did.
Is he a shout to play right back? Just asking you a question.
I mean, I guess if he can play left back, he can play right back. But
I mean, not to say that I want to see him there.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see Chalobah or Aspie there either. So to me,
yeah,
whatever's there is whatever's there. There's no good option at this point.
Do you not even have a preference between Chalobah and Aspie? Is there no, at least Chalobah, you trust him a little more than Aspie?
No.
Is it the same for you?
No. No. Just no.
He was okay against Palace. Not
He
at least
was
not awful.
If Fofana was fit, I would play Fofana there. Just by the way, if Fofana was fit and Reece James wasn't, it would be Fofana there, not Chalobah for me.
Yeah,
because Fofana is quicker. He's got better control of the ball, and I think he has better defensive instincts than Chalobah does. So,
yeah, I would probably be in agreement with that. But do you agree with Badiashile over Koulibaly at centre back though? Yeah.
Absolutely, because he's left-footed, and we saw how that played into the way we played last time. And people don't think it makes a big difference, but it actually makes a huge difference to have a left foot out of the back on that side.
I agree. Pice, would this be your back four as well? Would you go for Lewis Hall? Again, I guess we don't know the situation of Cucurella, so let's just pick who you would pick, regardless of what potentially the situation might be. Because we don't know in detail, I don't think we should use it as a basis to judge of who should start and who shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right. Whoever said it, in terms of if you play Cucurella and Chalobah, or even Cucurella and Aspie, you've not really got much going forward, in my opinion. But if you play Hall, you've got an outlet there. My problem is I know Cucurella has not been the best defensively, but Hall against Salah and Trent on the overlap, I mean, I'm not sure if I like that, to be honest with you.
That's also my concern.
I don't know, because you either. That's why I don't know. I'll go with Hull, but yeah, I'm a bit worried about that defensively. and I'd go with Badiashile as well, but I think he's not going to play because, first off, Potter's comments about Koulibaly, about him just playing too much, and also like after the game against Palace, he was saying how well Badiashile play, but then he said, "Oh, he's still got to adapt to the Premier League." So, will he throw him in against Liverpool?
Well, so does flipping Koulibaly. He hasn't adapted.
Yeah, I know, but if you think of it from a manager's point of view, you're going to away at
I think from a
Anfield.
manager perspective, you might be right. Yeah,
He's the older, more experienced player, so you might play him. But I'd hope Badiashile starts. But yeah, it's going to be this. It's going to be this back four for me. But I am worried about Hull getting exposed defensively, with especially with our pivot being probably Jorginho and Kovacic. So yeah,
that is the next issue. We will get to that in a second. Now, I personally would probably have picked Cucurella, even though the explanation of Jester as to why not to makes complete sense. I'm also aware of that thought. It's just also what Pice mentioned in terms of it's still Liverpool away. Like a draw is still going to be a more acceptable result than going gung-ho for a win and losing, especially getting battered. I'm not saying we're getting battered just because Liverpool plays, not by any means. But I'm saying away at Anfield, it's acceptable to be a little bit more pragmatic in your selection. And yeah, therefore I would probably pick Lewis Hall. Also, I mean, we'll get to that in a second. I would pick Mudryk. I would start Mudryk because I'm like, yeah, he might not be match fit, but as long as he's fit enough to not get injured, he's still going to be better than all of our non-winger options on the wing. So, to me, he should still start and play an hour. I'm not necessarily saying that will be the case. That's just what I would do. But hey, outvoted on Lewis Hall, so Lewis Hall will remain on screen. Charlie, double pivot, and maybe also finish off the rest of the team because I know you need to head off in a second.
Yeah, it's going to be Jorginho and Kovacic. For me, there's not really anyone else, is there? Gallagher's not a pivot player. Mount's not going to play in a pivot. Ruben's not really that fit, not fully fit to play. Kante injured. Anyway, yeah. Well, this is it. So it has to be that. And even if it was a 4-3-3, it'd still be Jorginho at the base with Kovacic and then one other. With this front three, I think it'd be Hakim Ziyech on the right hand side for me. There's not really any other options either, but I think obviously Hutchinson could go there, of course, but I don't think so. Ziyech, we're talking about a 10. I mean, look, if Mudryk was definitely going to start, like I would start Mudryk, but if we're taking Potter's word for it, then I don't think he does start. But if Mudryk starts and I go Mount in the 10 with Mudryk left and Havertz up top, but if Mudryk doesn't start, then I go Mount on that left-hand side, probably play Gallagher, and then obviously play Havertz.
Gallagher over Chukwuemeka for you then?
Probably just based on the last performance. Chukwuemeka I didn't think was that great against Palace, and Gallagher had a much better game. So probably just based on that, I would go with Gallagher in that 10 if Mudryk were to start. But if he doesn't, then obviously Mount goes to that other side. So that's personally what I would go with. I mean, there's not that many options there. I mean, realistically, the only other change you can make is making a shout for Chukwuemeka. Other than that, it's about
Aubameyang, I guess.
Is anyone making a shout for Aubameyang up front? Probably not, considering we don't really create anything. So realistically, these are the options we're looking at. We're looking at Mudryk playing on the left or Mount with Mount in a 10, or it's Mount on the left with Gallagher or Carney in that 10 role. Those are essentially the options that are on the table.
The only other option you theoretically could have, even though it's very unlikely, is obviously Cucurella plays left back and then Hall is a midfield option. But even then,
there is also that. There is all. Well, I mean, that is a plausible possibility.
Not in a pivot though. It was a 4-3-3.
No, not in a 3-4-3-3.
I mean, the only game he's played in midfield for the first team, two actually, one at Newcastle, that was in midfield, wasn't it?
No, he played. I thought
left wing back.
No,
that was wing back. But yeah, okay, so then his only appearance for the first team in midfield was in a double pivot in that friendly against Villa. Obviously, it was that friendly against Aston Villa, so I'm not saying it speaks the world. But in that game, he played in the double pivot with Jorginho, I'm pretty sure.
But basically, there's a lack of options, and people want, and like when people say, "Oh, why are Chelsea signing attackers?" Well, this is why. So it's basically Mudryk starts and Mount plays 10, or Mount starts on that left-hand side and it's Gallagher or Chukwuemeka in that sort of 10 role or third midfield position. That's really what we're looking at here.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, that probably is what we're looking at here, mate. Charlie, hey, I appreciate
Yeah.
you for giving me your time. I appreciate it very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please check out Charlie's channel. The link to it is down in the description, the Blues Brothers. Charlie, just lastly, before I let you go, could I get a quick score prediction, mate?
Oh, we haven't won on the road for a while. I think the last time we won away was Villa in October. So we probably we're due one. We're definitely due one. I'm gonna try. Well, I don't know if I actually think this, so I'm just saying it to try and speak it into existence. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win.
Go on then. Hey, I'm all for manifesting and speaking into existence. Go on then.
Yeah, we'll go with a 2-1. We'll go with a 2-1.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Fair play. Charlie, appreciate it. Everybody check out his channel. And we'll chat to you soon, mate.
Yeah, cheers. Nice one, guys.
Take care. All right, boys. Chester, we'll get to you. Midfield pivot. Is it as simple as Charlie put it? Who else are you going to play other than Kovacic and Jorginho? Or, I mean, I didn't even actually give you guys the option between 4-2-3-1 and potentially a 4-3-3. I picked a 4-2-3-1 because, that's seemingly what we're mostly playing, even if it's, switches in game. Do you have another shout other than those two, or is it just going to have to be them two?
Yeah, here's a shout.
Go on.
Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Carney Chukwuemeka in the pivot.
That's the double pivot.
There you go.
but Ruben probably is fit to start. Now,
the only reason he wasn't fit last week to play was he was sick. Not that he was.
Oh, yeah, no, but he's been injured for a good while now. So
I think he's been in training for 2 weeks now.
First, right?
Yeah, I think he's been in training for 2 or 3 weeks. So
yeah,
it's
true.
If I had to pick a pivot of the fit players right now, that would probably be my pivot because Jorginho's lack of defensive ability, and Kovacic doesn't look like he wants to be here right now. Out of his last few performances, I thought he was terrible.
One of those two, he certainly looks like. Yeah, I agree.
I thought he was terrible. If he does another quasi scorpion kick to try to advance the ball upfield and give it away, I might run on the field and take care of it myself because I just can't stand that. Yeah. If you want to do tricks and flicks, you better make sure they come off and you don't give the ball away. So
didn't he try? I think wasn't the bicycle thing a shot though at the edge of the box?
No. It's not like a shot, but he sticks his leg out. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And he doesn't know where the ball is going to go, or he's really not looking at and he just knocks the ball downfield. I can't stand that. I need somebody to be able to advance the ball. And in the end, I think that's going to be the pivot. But if you want to shout, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Carney, because Carney can play. He's a Pogba type player, so he can play 6, 8, or 10.
But can he really? I feel like, at least as of today, with Carney Chukwuemeka being 19 years old, is he 20?
20.
Yeah. I think, you said it earlier, Mount can't play in the pivot. I think he's still more likely, as of today, with Carney being 20, being likely to do a job. But hey, I asked you for an outrageous shout. You gave me an outrageous shout. I can't complain, can I? Pice, I'll ask you the same question. I assume you're going to pick Kovacic and Jorginho, but do you have any outrageous shouts lying in some drawer that you want to pull out, like Chukwuemeka and Loftus-Cheek?
No, I want to go 4-3-3 though.
Okay.
I do want to go 4-3-3. The reason why I'm going to pick this is because Liverpool's sort of main threats always come down the right-hand side. So when they're attacking the left back with Trent, Salah, sometimes you get Harvey Elliott coming in those spaces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Kovacic on the right-hand side. Jorginho is the lone 6. The number 8 will be Gallagher for that defensive work rate and also carrying the ball up the pitch. And then left wing, also Mount. I think Mount can also come back with Gallagher and kind of shut off that side. But also I want Trent worked, and I can't think of another player that could play on that left side unless Mudryk. So my plan is to play Mount there and then bring Mudryk on at like 60 minutes and then probably drop Mount back into midfield. So, or even take him off depending on how he's playing. So yeah, I think that would be my team, what's on the screen now. Just because of that, like Mount and Gallagher on that side could really help not only Jorginho but also Lewis Hall. And I think we might do well defending against that sort of side against Salah, Trent, and I just think Gallagher in this game at Anfield could just be like, I thought he played really well against Palace. I just think with that energy and just the amount of times he got hacked down as well. Like, I think Liverpool are in a moment where they don't want too many players like Gallagher playing against them because they're a bit sort of, I don't know, they're a bit sort of fragile at the moment. They don't want someone like Gallagher pressing them constantly for me. So yeah, they're lacking confidence, a bit like us. So I think that would be my team. Just a lot on the basis of defending that side, because on the left-hand side, I mean, Nunez will probably play up front. I don't know who the hell they're going to play on the left-hand side. So yeah, maybe Carvalho. I mean, Jota's injured. I don't know. So yeah, for me, our game plan has to be to shut off Salah, Trent, and Elliott, and yeah, that sort of side if Elliott plays.
I think it's going to be Gakpo on the left.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. But to be honest, yeah, he's not started too well. I mean,
but aren't they then more likely to play Gakpo up top and Nunez on the left?
It depends. They might might be more fluid. Yeah,
but who knows? Even if Nunez can start, so we don't even know that.
Yeah, he might not start. I don't know. So yeah.
I'll let you give your thoughts on what Pice just said in a second. Just that the only thing I would add is I think Gallagher is much better on the right than he is on the left, because when he's on the right, he can run up to here where he can shield the ball, because he's clearly does everything with his right foot. So then he can shield the ball. And it's actually decent at crossing. If you put him on the left, what's he going to do other than
do that? Switch Kovacic and Gallagher then, and then play Cucurella over Hull.
I think if Kovacic works hard enough, which he didn't against City, if he works hard enough, it's fine. I think it's just the question is, will he work hard enough? That's the only issue I have. I think it's okay with Hall, with Mount up ahead of him. I mean, I would play Mudryk anyway, but it's okay if you guys don't know. That's fine.
And then look at Chalobah, Gallagher, and Ziyech. That's why I put Kovacic there as well, because man, that link up will be stinky down that side if that's the.
I just fear that Gallagher will just be stinky no matter who he's with if he's forced to do everything down the left too much. But I don't mind it. Jesse, you wanted to react to the 4-3-3. I mean, would you hate if it was a 4-3-3 for this specific one? I see Pice's explanation with, obviously, yes, a 4-3-3-1 in a way has three midfielders with a number 10, but I guess Liverpool play in a 3 with 1-6 and 2-8. So I guess copying that wouldn't be bad.
For me, if you're going to do this, if you're going to play a 4-3-3 with 2 out and out 8s, might as well play a 4-4-2 diamond. Drop Mount as a 10 in the head of the diamond, and put Havertz and Aubameyang up top, because I want as much speed as we can get down the left-hand side, which is against Trent. I want somebody who can get in behind, because that's easy goals against this team right now. And if you want to drive Trent back and make Salah play some defense, you need to have some offense down that left-hand side for me. For me, I'd rather play defense by playing offense, because...
wouldn't you then... I mean, I agree with what you said. Actually, I would not mind... What we did against City, where it was a bit strange, where kind of Ziyech was second striker when it was already a diamond anyway. I would agree that then you'd definitely pick Aubameyang over Ziyech in that scenario. But wouldn't you then be slightly concerned, as much as it is to exploit them, maybe? I mean, it would have to be the other way around. Let me just to make it to that quickly so we can play around with the idea. I can absolutely see that idea, but wouldn't you then slightly be concerned about their attacking fullbacks having only Lewis Hall and Chalobah? I know these two are going to do their thing.
Well, yeah, they would do that.
But,
Well, who else? Look, it's not like you have some killer defenders on the pitch anyway.
You're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I'd be worried about their fullbacks.
And even if you're going to you could also play Aubameyang down the left if you want to play him as a winger instead of Mount, because Mount does not have the ability to burn Trent over and over and over. We have 2 available to us, basically.
I actually agree
Aubameyang
with that,
and Mudryk.
I would genuinely probably, in this game, with who that left side is against, I would pick Aubameyang over Mount on the wing.
Aubameyang will just cut inside though. I don't think he'll take anyone on anymore.
It doesn't matter what happens when he has the ball. It matters on where his runs are and to exploit the space that Trent leaves. Once he has the ball, he can cut inside. That's fine. But it just needs to be in the space that Trent leaves. Do you know what I mean?
And even when he plays striker Aubameyang, he does
tend
to go out to his left.
He does, so.
He goes out to his left when he plays as a striker anyway to pick up the ball. So for me, it's easy goals down Trent's side right now.
I don't disagree with you, man. I don't. Would you, if say we did put Aubameyang here, Chester. Would you then play Gallagher or Mount in that second 8?
Well, you know Mount's going to play, so you better
Well,
find
there you go.
position.
I'm not asking you who you think Potter's going to play. I'm asking you who you would play.
I would actually, in this formation, probably put Mount over Kovacic, depending on, because I didn't like the way Kovacic played his last game.
Yeah.
Not that he's a better player than Mount, but you're only as good as your last start for me. And even though Mount was quiet, he still had a better game than Kovacic. And for me, if you're going to play 2 8s, you play Mount and Gallagher. You could even potentially play Kovacic at the base if you wanted to do that. Then
you could, just for maximum energy, I guess. You could.
Yeah, because it's not like you're gonna defend anybody with Jorginho at the base.
also not wrong. And how much are we going to dominate the game at Anfield, no matter who we have on the pitch, I suppose.
Right. And I think counterattacking might be the way to go. So set up your team to counterattack.
In that case, we might have a 3 at the back.
You could. I was looking at that as well, because if you did that, you could then play a Ruben at right wing back, or Gallagher at right wing back, and have more attacking.
Finally, someone but me that thinks Gallagher as a right wing back in a case where you don't have Reece James available, still miles clear of flipping Aspilicueta in my books. But hey,
I might stab my eyes if I see Koulibaly in a 3 left centre back again, trying to defend White's
that
face.
is also true.
Well, you could play Chalobah.
I mean, you could play Badiashile, Thiago, and Chalobah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you really wanted to. I still think we should go for the 4, because I think if we're going to go for the 4 long term, then we can't just every time we play a difficult opponent switch it. And how are we ever going to get good against difficult opponents in our formation then, Jeremy? So I think that. But then again, we played the back 4 against City, got spanked in the first half in the cup, and then we did a back 3 against Fulham for absolutely no reason whatsoever, other than forcing Joao Felix in as a second strike. And apparently you can only do that with a back 3 in our manager's opinion. Who knows if that's actually why it happened, but that's what it felt like to me. So what are we going to do then, boys? Because we have about 17 different shouts here, and I think all of them have their validation to them. This is partly because I'm not sat here predicting the 11. I don't expect Mudryk to start either. But this is almost why I wanted to put Mudryk in, because at least if I put Mudryk in, I have less other issues to worry about because of all the things that we've just spoken about. So many issues that apply to our team when we don't have a winger like Mudryk. So that's why I would just start him. But I understand why someone might not want to do that. So what do we want to finalize on? I mean, Jester, would you prefer the 4-2-3-1 over the 4-3-3?
I think that 4-2-3-1 gives us better triangles and build up, and gives you natural space in the center of the pitch for either Havertz to drop, because I know we've had this conversation. Is he a 9 or a 10? Well, he's a combination of 9 and 10, which is actually a center forward. So he's going to drop deep
as a real striker, which is my issue.
Right. He's not an out and out striker. He is a center forward, a classic center forward. So either you can have this, if you have a 10 and a 10 who will run past a center forward if he drops deep, that works really well in the 2-1. And not so much as a 4-3-3, but they're going to look similar in some phases of the game anyway. Like if you're out of possession, you're going to have one of those H drop deeper in the midfield anyway.
Exactly.
And it will end up looking like that and build up anyway.
Yeah.
And then going forward, of course, Jorginho would say for the back. So I would just say you're going to have 2 defensive-minded midfielders and 1 attacking-minded midfielder on the pitch.
Yeah, and then, if Liverpool are on top, whoever the 10 is or a second 8 needs to drop deeper anyway, no matter whether it's officially, characterized as a 10 or as an 8. I would put Mount over Gallagher still, just because I feel like against Liverpool, the way you can do something against Liverpool, in my opinion, is you need to do things quickly. Now, I'm not saying Mount does always do things as quickly as I would like him to, but I still think he does things quicker than Gallagher does, just because to me Gallagher just takes too long for everything. When he finally gets to doing things, it's not even that bad, but his touch isn't great. His being aware of his surroundings isn't great. And by the time he does anything specific, it's often too late. I think Mount's a little bit better at that, but obviously with Mount, it's always like, which Mount are you going to get? You're going to get the Mount that we know he can be, then fine. If he's going to be the Mount of late, then it's not going to be fine. But it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. I mean, Pies, if I forced you into a 4-2-3-1, who would you fill it with?
Well, 4-2-3-1, Jorginho and Kovacic, because they know each other, I think, combination-wise. I think big game experience as well. We do lack that physical profile in there when them two play, but I just think, they've played in the pivot together so many times that I think you probably have to do that. Maybe a shout for Loftus-Cheek in the pivot, but I'm not really a big fan, to be honest. I prefer when he plays sort of... Even I've said before, I think even right wing back inverting, I think is better than him playing in a pivot. So, yeah, I just don't think he works there. And then the front line would be, I mean, in the number 10, I'd probably go with Gallagher. On the left, I'd probably go with Mount. Right, Ziyech. Probably Havertz up top, just because of like Havertz, Mount, and Gallagher pressing. Their defensive line would be, I think that could be something that makes them lose the ball, and then hopefully Kovacic could pick it up, and then we could get something from there with Hall going forward. But I don't know, man. It just
let's just for a second assume Mudryk does start, who would be in the 10 then for you, Mount or Gallagher?
Probably Mount, to be honest. Probably Mount.
Okay. I think I'm going to keep this on screen purely for manifestation of Mudryk starting. It might not be unrealistic. It might not be realistic, but trying to manifest it because hey, I need something positive tomorrow. And if I'd from my time, 1:30 in the afternoon, like at midday tomorrow, I have to sit there and watch this team without Mudryk, then I feel like I'm not going to have a fun afternoon. So that's why I'm trying to manifest it. But one last thing, if you both have the time, with Jester, I'm not sure if you've actually, no, you've definitely not been part of it before. I'm not sure if you've seen it before. We have our good friend Bertram prepare a little quiz in our previews, Chelsea-related quiz. This is apparently about debuts. Don't worry, there's plenty of questions where we don't know the answer to. So if you don't know, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And if you do, amazing. But let's get through this little quiz of ours. Ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, if you're still here, by the way, subscribe if you haven't already, smash the like button and get involved in the conversation. Just put your answer in the chat. I will try to read out a few of them. But let's go. Liverpool versus Chelsea before I ask you guys for your score predictions. As we tomorrow take on Liverpool, we hope to see our new man, Mudryk, making his debut. Speaking of, against which club did our all-time best winger, Eden Hazard, play his first Chelsea game? A, Wigan, B, Hull, C, QPR, or D, Reading?
Easy.
Yes, I think I'm pretty confident as well. Jester, do you have something in mind, or you're not sure?
I was not watching Chelsea at this point, so
that's
mine's going to be a complete and utter guess.
That's fine. Then you will go first. I'll go second, and we'll let Pice go last if he's as sure.
I'm going to say, who was up at that time?
That is a good question as well, to be fair. If you're not sure, that is fair.
I'm going to say QPR.
See, now my opinions have been slightly swayed here because a lot of people in the chat are all saying Wigan. My initial instinct was Hull, but now that I've seen so many people say Wigan, that has now triggered a memory of Wigan. And I will stick to my original one, which was Hull, but know that I actually want to say Wigan now. But I'm going to say Hull because I'm an honest man. I assume it's Wigan.
It was Wigan away. He dropped an absolute masterclass. I think he won a penalty. It was crazy.
He set up Ivanovic as well, didn't he?
Yeah. Ivanovic scored bottom left-hand corner, drilled it home.
Exactly that.
Absolutely toyed with them.
I just feel like I remembered us playing against a very colourful shirt, and Wigan obviously don't have a colourful. That's where the Hull came from. Rather than that I ever remembered anything about Hull specifically. I just remember, I feel like I had a memory of a colourful shirt. But hey, clearly not. Hey, here we are. Move on. Pedro hit the ground running during our dismal 15-16 campaign. Was Pedro. Okay. So how did he perform on his debut away at West Brom? 1 goal and assist, 2 goals and assists, or 3 goals and assists?
I think I know this because, I think I know this.
I feel like it was 2, Did he? Because I feel like he scored, but did he get an assist as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2.
Jester, do you have an inkling? Do you remember this one?
I have imbibed many adult beverages since then. So a few brain cells have gone away since this time, but I'm going to say I don't remember if Pedro ever had a hat trick for Chelsea.
Or it could be assist as well. That doesn't necessarily need to be a hat trick of goals.
Oh, so that's a combination of both.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not 2 goals and an assist. It's 2 goals and an assist, or two
Exactly
goals
that. So 3 goals / assist could be 2 goals, 1 assist, 2 assists, 1 goal.
So he couldn't put GC for goal contributions?
Nope.
I'm going to say B.
Okay. I'm going to say B as well. But if I'm honest, there's some memory in me, but, I'm more guessing. He scored 1 on his debut in the rain at West Brom before becoming one of our most consistent players. So it was only 1, actually. It wasn't even 2. Well, here we are. Didn't even get an assist. Unlucky Pedro. But fair play. Chelsea are known for splashing the cash, and not all of that cash always seems well spent at first. So question is, out of our top 10 most expensive signings, how many, scored on their competitive debut? Wow, what a question. How many scored on their competitive debut? The man who shall not be named, which I assume is Lukaku, Mudryk, who hasn't played yet, Kai Havertz, Kepa, who's a goalkeeper, Wesley Fofana, Cucurella, Morata, Pulisic, Torres, and Jorginho. Wow. I think it's 2,
On the Chelsea debut, who scored?
Yeah. I think it's 2. I think it's Lukaku and Morata.
Well, I know it. I know who didn't score.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure we didn't have a penalty in Jorginho's first game. Also, didn't we still have Hazard then? So he wouldn't have taken it anyway. No, so it can't be Jorginho. Torres didn't score for 5 months until we played West Ham. So not Torres. Pulisic definitely didn't score. Apparently wasn't his debut, was it? So it can't be.
No.
Morata scored. I'm very confident. Cucurella didn't. Fofana didn't. Kepa didn't. Kai scored in his first cup game, but that wasn't his debut. So no. Mudryk hasn't played yet. And I think Lukaku scored unless that's a question now. Is he counting Lukaku's first game of the second spell? Because he definitely didn't score in his first debut.
Oh, well.
I assume he's talking about last year, though. I assume.
I'm assuming. So I'll say, but yeah, Morata and Lukaku.
I'm going with Jorginho as well.
But how, bro? We had Hazard. So how would Jorginho take it?
Because I think didn't Jorginho take the penalty against Huddersfield away? Sure, he did. Was that not his debut?
But that was his second season.
What, 18, 19?
Wasn't Huddersfield? Oh no, that was Brighton. Wasn't Lampard's first game? Oh, that was Brighton, wasn't it? Because he scored a penalty. He scored a penalty in Lampard's first game. I know that. So I thought that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah.
They're saying Kai against Barnsley.
Yeah, which is true. He did score in that, but that wasn't his debut.
His debut was Brighton away, which is,
yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. If Mudryk scores at Anfield at the weekend, I demand the recount. Yes, sure. I agree. Okay. But Pice, are you confident that Lukaku scored in his debut last year? What was his debut? Was Arsenal his first game last
year? Yeah, Arsenal, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, then he obviously scored. I just wasn't sure if that was his first game. Jorginho, you know what?
Bro.
And Huddersfield. You know what? Pice, you get a round of applause.
I knew it.
Fair play. But how did he even? Was Hazard taken off? Was he injured?
I think. Didn't they?
Oh, it was after the World Cup. He probably wasn't fit yet.
No, he did play. I think I'll tell you what it was. He came off the bench because I remember he went on like a mad dribble. I think he came off the bench at like some point, and Jorginho we must have got a penalty before that, unless Hazard just let him took it. But I know
the penalty came in the 45th minute, and let me just see. Hazard didn't start.
He came on.
You're correct. But the reason why he didn't start was this is 2018, 11th of August 2018. And obviously Hazard played, well, not the World Cup final, but in the small final of the World Cup. That's why he wasn't quite ready yet. But yeah, you know what, Pies? No, fair play. That was very good.
Bang.
That's very
I
good.
get 5 points for that. Let's go.
Yeah, no, you get all the points, mate. All the points. There you go. Oh yeah, I remember him. So just for you, we get 3 clues now, and from those 3 clues, we basically have to figure out who it is. Sometimes they will still be at Chelsea, but the clues will tell us whether he's here or not. Usually, so I'm sure we'll figure it out. We've never got it on the first clue. So from the second onwards, we can try. I scored my first goals for Chelsea against Liverpool. All right. I signed for Chelsea in January as a defender. Okay. Does anyone have a clue yet? Otherwise, I'm going to go for clue.
Wait, what was the first one? You scored in
I scored my first goal or goals for Chelsea against Liverpool.
Right off the bat. Wait, is it in January? Is this just any January? I'm guessing.
Any January, yes.
I'm gonna say off the bat Ivanovic, but I don't know if we signed him in January.
I think we signed him in the summer, but are you sure he scored his first goal against Liverpool, or is this just
it's just a random guess from the first 2 because I know he scored a lot against Liverpool, so that's just a random guess. Let's see where it goes.
Well, someone in the chat a couple of people in the chat made a good shout with Gary Cahill. That's a shout.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Cahill or Louise.
Yeah. Louise was because I'm sure about Louise and Cahill being in January. I think didn't we have Ivanovic? Maybe you weren't on their preview, but I'm pretty sure we had something in a quiz recently where we figured out that Ivanovic was signed in the summer. So I feel like it can't be him.
I don't know. These quizzes
are let's just see what clue 3 is, and maybe that will help us out. I'm a right back. Well, maybe Pice was spot on again. And I played my last game for Chelsea against Brentford in 2017.
That would be.
Because wasn't Ivanovic here until...
Oh, no, Justice might be right. It might be Moses.
Yeah, Moses.
Wait, no.
Victor Moses.
But would Moses be deemed as a right back, as a defender and as a right back?
I don't know. Probably not.
I mean, it depends on Bertram, that one, I guess.
Well,
Because Ivanovic was here still in Conte's first season. But didn't he leave in January of the Conte's first season?
I actually can't remember when Ivanovic left.
Zappacosta, President Zappacosta.
I mean...
No, I don't think he scored against Liverpool, did he? I can't remember him scoring.
And we signed him in the summer, didn't we?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and it can't be Emerson because he obviously played after Brentford.
And he's not a right back.
Yeah, well, that's also true. Yeah, I had fullback in my head, but yeah, no, true. I feel like it has to be Ivanovic. I feel like it's got to be. I feel it's got to be. There's no other option. I think, unless it's Moses, and if it's Moses, Bertram is back on fraud watch for calling him a defender and a right back. Fran is like Ivanovic. You know what? I say, bloody hell, you're having the best day of your life.
I just know, he scored so many. I swear to God, he scored so many goals against Liverpool. And he'd been here so long, so I thought it might be a good shout.
Hey, no, it's true. It absolutely is true. And was that actually his first goal? That one, because wasn't that the cup semi-final?
That looks like 2008, I think.
Champions League semi-final. Sorry.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah.
Might have been. But now sorry, I'm just quickly going to Google this because I was so sure from one of the recent streams that we signed Ivanovic in the summer. No, it was January 15th, 2008. Well, you know what? Fair play. All right, then. Next slide. I think this might be the next one. No, maybe we'll have 2 more. So on this one, Jester, and everybody watching, of course, if you haven't been here before.
Range United, bro.
United. 2 appearances, 1 goal. You know what? Fair play. So basically, from this is the screenshot of the Wikipedia clubs he's played for, and from that we have to figure out who it is. But he's only played 11 games for us, and that was on loan from AC Milan.
Oh my God!
And then he was at City after us.
Right, it's got to be some sort of. I mean, Monaco. He's played a lot for Monaco and PSG. He's got a decent goal return, so it can't be it's not a defender. I mean, look at that. 47 for Monaco, 46 for Milan, 32 for PSG.
It wasn't Higuain.
No, he'd have Juve on there.
I think it must be like an earlier thing.
Yeah, this is going to be someone quite a while ago.
But Al Jazeera as well suggests, because how early did people start moving in those kind of countries for the end of their careers? So
Man City, bro, the one that's getting me, Man City for 7 games. What the hell is that?
Yeah. And only on loan from AC Milan. I feel like I should know this.
Yeah, I feel like I should know this as well.
Monaco and PSG.
Bro, who the hell is? It's not. Oh no, it can't be him. No, that's me being stupid.
And I assume he's African without, too much prejudice here. I assume Bong Range United, Mighty Barrel, Invincible 11, and Africa Sports are all in Africa. And Tonnerre Yaoundé is probably in Africa as well. Maybe France. And then we're talking France, so it's probably one of the French-speaking African countries. Probably where it's from. Oh, I guess it could be English-speaking with Bong Range
Right. Bertram, if you're watching this, bro, on these with the really hard ones, you need to give us like a tiny clue.
Yeah, they'll get an option of a clue somewhere.
Bro, this is ridiculous. I don't know who this is.
Yeah, I mean, someone said Weah. Could it be George Weah? Because Weah was only on loan at Chelsea.
Surely he'd have a better
From
goal.
AC Milan. Because I was thinking, okay, who did we have from Milan? We had Hullet from Milan. We had Weah from Milan. We had...
Did he play for Man City?
That's the part I'm not sure about. But I feel like the whole other clubs being African, having played for AC Milan, I feel like George Weah is a shout, Marks...
It is George Weah.
It's going to be George Weah, isn't it?
Yeah. This one was so hard, I think it's okay. That's how
Transfer market wins again.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that one was difficult, but but hey, fair play. He's one of three players that have won the Ballon d'Or and also played for Chelsea. Fortunately, none of them did it at the same time, but we can hope Mudryk exists. Golden goal scorers. This is the very last one, where we basically need to figure out who the covered up goal scorer of this game is. In this case, he actually scored both in the 45th +3 and in the 89th minute with a penalty in a 2-2 draw against West Ham United in 2016 as well. So in our, as you can maybe judge from the kit as well, in our absolutely dreadful season, this was already under Gus Hiddink.
He's not English because he's got long sleeves on.
It's got to be it's got to be Hazard, isn't it? Or Oscar? Hazard or Oscar? I'm thinking Oscar. I don't know why he would have taken a penalty, but.
Hazard definitely didn't. Hazard barely scored 3 goals in that entire season. How could he have scored 2 against West Ham?
I think Oscar.
I was feeling like Fabregas, but I think Oscar is a shout.
Yeah,
Fabregas might have taken a pen if Hazard.
Yeah, that's a shout.
Yeah, it is.
He looks quite he's got quite a decent physique as well, so it might be Fabregas.
Obviously Kale is behind him, but he doesn't seem like teeny tiny compared to him.
No, yeah, Fabregas is a shout. Might be in.
And who did we have any other striker options that season? Who was our strikers?
We signed like Falcao, but he didn't. He only scored 1 goal.
Yeah.
We had Pato.
Could it be Diego Costa?
Nah, Costa would be bigger than that in my opinion.
I agree.
And he wouldn't wear long sleeves either.
No, also true.
He wore gloves a few times.
Could it be Loic Remy? But he never scored 2 in a game, did he? And not a penalty.
Nah, I don't think it's Remy.
I'm going to stick with Fabregas. Are you going to stick with Oscar, Pies?
I think you're right, but I'll stick with Oscar. I think it's Fabregas.
Okay. Jester, are you going to agree with Fabregas as well? Or you're going to have a different chance?
Sure.
Hey, it's fair. It was Fabregas. I will be honest, I kind of judged more than, I remember this game. I know he scored. More like, I don't know. I remember him wearing the long sleeves very often. I don't know. The physique seemed about right. I'll be honest. I judged more by that than anything else. But hey, here we are. Thanks for playing up the Chelsea. And boys, the last thing I want from you now is a score prediction.
My God.
And I will start with you, Jester. What do you reckon? Are you going to be like Charlie, just manifesting a good result tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm doing a crazy result. 3-2 Chelsea.
3-2 Chelsea. Hey, I'm so here for it. You can't even imagine. Imagine, like Mudryk, even when he doesn't start, comes on 92nd minute, 3-2. Imagine the scenes.
Yeah.
Imagine the scenes. It would be wonderful. Pice, are you going to be on that positive hype train?
Not. I'm gonna go for a 1-1. Sorry.
Okay. Hey, I hear it. I hear it. To be fair, sorry, before I get to my own score prediction, considering it was the 15-16 season, how did none of us even suggest Willian for the 2 goals a minute ago? But hey, here we are. I'm gonna. It's so boring because on these kind of games, I'm like, I'm not sure we're gonna win. I feel like a draw is very likely. I always end up predicting a 2-1, always, but I feel like it's so boring. So on that basis, And also, Jester's already done the 3-2, so I can't do that either. So I'm going to stick with my 2-1, but just know that I didn't want to say 2-1.
Well, Charlie said 2-1, so you can't say that either.
Oh, you said 2-1 flips. Okay, I'm going to say 4-3 then.
There you go, 4-3.
Yeah,
Let's go. Let's go.
What did we lose by under Lampard? 5-3, was it? At Anfield?
5-2, I think. No, it was
5-2.
5-3. Was it 5-2 or 5-3? Giroud scored. Tammy scored. Anyone else?
Pulisic scored.
Pulisic scored, depending on which one it is.
Yeah, it was
So
5-3.
Project
Yeah.
I
Restart?
think it was 5-2.
5-3.
5-3?
I think
Project
so.
Restart, wasn't it?
Didn't we get
Is that
back
the
to
one?
3-3 and then they just scored 2 more?
Let me check. It was 5-3.
Depends which year
Oh,
you're
God.
talking about, or
It was
which game.
5-3.
Under Lampard when it was without fans.
It was
Project
5-3. I did
Restart,
check.
yeah. Because Pulisic had a goal and assist, I know.
Yeah, I think he assisted Tammy and he scored then himself later on. But yeah, did we get it back to 3-3? No, we came back to 4-3 and then they scored the 5-3 at the end
Right.
when we were trying to get fully back into
But that was the one where Lampard was like beefing Klopp, wasn't he?
Yeah. And he was like,
You've
you won
won
more
one
Premier League,
title
give
or
it the bigot. That was quite funny doing that.
Christ.
That was good times. Boys, I appreciate you both for giving me your time. Also, big shout out to Charlie again. Please do check out, Jester Action. Actually, I will do that right now. Haven't actually added Jester's link to the description because when we decided that Jester was going to be on, I had already finished the description. So
That's
in a
okay.
second, Jester's Twitter link will be in the description. So please do follow him, as well as follow Pies on Twitter, and of course, checking out his website, chelseafc365.com. As I've done recently, I will stay on for another 10-15 minutes to just talk to the chat. So, Chester, Pies, appreciate you both for giving me your time. I'll chat to you soon, and hopefully, me and Jester are going to be right and we win. Whatever scoreline it shall be, hopefully we're just right. But yeah, appreciate you both, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, guys.
Cheers, boys. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I'm doing this regularly now, at least for the previous stream. Have we ever scored 4 goals this season? Ooh, it's a good question. I don't think so. Now you say it. Don't think so. We scored 3 against Wolves, scored 3 against Milan, scored, and otherwise we never even scored 3, I don't think. Did we score 3 in another game? 4-3, and then scored the 5th. Yeah, Santiago, fair play. Unless you Googled it, then not fair play. 1-0 for the Chelsea, smash and grab. Or at least I hope, mate. I hope you're right. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you guys... I like this new bonus Laurenz ending. Hey, I appreciate your fantasy PJ Joe. Big up yourself, man. Big up yourself. Guys, get involved if you have any things that you want us to chat about as a collective. Obviously, use the super chat function if you want to support the channel. Otherwise, just put it in the chat. That's what this section is for. Of course, become a member if you fancy. There's a join button underneath or link down in the description if you're on your phone. Like Cedric, he's a member, has that little icon next to his name. And this name is always highlighted green to me, so I always notice his messages more. You know, Fantasy PGA Tour is the same. So yeah, shout out to you guys. Have you any idea where Ziyech is going? Oh, yeah, actually. Fantasy, let me just wait. I did see that question for Pies. I wanted to bring it up, but then it kind of, kind of didn't really fit the conversation anymore. I do apologize. I don't think we know yet where he's going. Can the camera focus on me, please? Thank you. I don't think we know, if I'm honest. The only thing we know is that it was always going to be Milan. And then it seemed like recently it's not going to be Milan anymore. So now I don't know. I also don't know if the plan is for us to still sell him in January now or not. Because one of the reasons why I find Madueke an acceptable signing, despite the injury concerns, is the fact that he's obviously English. So, therefore, if we don't sell Ziyech now, then we still don't have that extra registration spot for the Champions League. So then I'm not sure what the point is, but I'm not sure how likely we are to find a suitor for Ziyech still in the remaining window. I mean, one, Newcastle interested in Ziyech as well, or is it only Gallagher and Ruben that they want? I'm not sure. Santiago says, Laurenz, do you think we could use Cucurella like Arsenal uses Zinchenko? You mean as like a, defensively as a left back and offensively as a midfielder? Is that what you're trying to say? We could. We could also use Lewis Hall that way, considering he's actually a midfielder. Difficult one. Maybe it's something to play around with, but it's not a tactic that we've necessarily deployed yet. So I'm not sure how quickly we can move to it if we started to deploy it. But it's not the worst shout I've ever heard. But yeah, guys, get involved. Get involved. Put any thoughts you have in the chat. But what I want to ask you guys, and if you just put your answers in the chat so I get a bit of a feel what the chat feels about this, is what you guys think about Madueke. Obviously, we spoke about him at the very beginning of the stream, and I didn't see everything you guys put in the chat. But what do you think of Madueke? Are you happy with the signing? Do you think that the talent and potential outweigh the injuries? Or are you more concerned about the injuries than anything else? Let me know about that one. And yeah, put it in the chat. Let me just clear a few things here off my tabs so you guys can get involved. And hopefully you will, because if you don't, then I'm going to have to cut the stream quite soon. Because if no one's saying anything, then I can't chat to the chat. I'll be honest, I didn't know about him until the last few days. Fantasy PGA Tour says, yeah, I just neither did I. Neither did I. When we first were linked with him, I'm like, who? And then I said, like, Pies tweeted the link, and I simply responded, who? And then people already had a go at me like I don't know ball, apparently. HM says Madueke looks lanky and struggles to get the ball under control. Really? That's what you've gathered? I mean, like, I've seen a couple of compilations, but I'm not gonna make the most out of a compilation, am I? But it didn't seem like the touch was his biggest issue. What I can bring up is that I see a little bit of lankiness where that maybe comes from, but I feel like that might be the long sleeve shirts that he does enjoy wearing. He's 1.82 meters, which is near on 6 foot. 6 foot is 1.83 meters, so like 5'11", 6 foot, that's his height. So it's not going to be too lanky, but I do kind of hear what you're saying. I have regained faith in the ownership the last week or so. Anyway, the way we move in. I'm also up and down and up and down. I constantly change my mind in what I think about that whole situation. I'll be perfectly honest, mate. Like, I still think we bottled Enzo a little bit. Like, I know someone said it in the chat earlier. You can't say we bottled it. I think we did bottle it because all the reports have been lying. And not the reports after the fiasco. I mean, the reports before the fiasco. Because if it was even remotely on the cards that we were considering the release clause or paying over the release clause to get it in installments, and then you bid 35 million under the release clause, is ridiculous. 45 minutes. No, 35 million under the release was still outrageous. We need a left-footed right winger. I'm happy we got one. We would have had no one left if Ziyech leaves. I agree with that. Absolutely. I think that's that and being homegrown are the two biggest benefits to this whole deal. It's also not too expensive in the grand scheme of things. So, you can't complain too much, I guess. You can't complain too much. We just hope that he's not going to be injured too much for us, and then we should be okay. Although there are potential fears about this lengthy contract, high spending tactic. You think it's risky? It's being painted as this super risky thing. And I know, obviously, there's a couple of examples where we got stuck with long contracts. I guess to a little extent, Kepa, if Kepa only got a 5-year contract, would he have been gone already by now? I mean, right now that would maybe hurt us, but I guess we would have replaced him with somebody. So who knows? And then obviously you have the likes of Bakayoko and Danny Drinkwater, who were really a serious issue until the very end of their contract. Well, Bakayoko still is, and Drinkwater was until the very end of their contract. So the part of me thinks, yes, there is absolute risk to it. At the same time, when you think about who these players are that we've given these insanely long contracts to, I mean, didn't Sterling even get a 6-year contract, if I'm honest? And I don't know how long a contract Koulibaly got, but the most of these guys that we've given these long contracts to are super young players, like Mudryk, Badiashile. Also, the youngsters, Reece James got a 6-year contract. Broja got a 6-year contract. For these guys, I don't think it's too much of an issue because they're so young. Even if, like, especially Badiashile and Mudryk now, even if we slightly overpaid, and Nkunku is going to be the same, even if we overpaid, we're still going to be able to sell them at some point. Maybe if it's for less, but, I feel like those kind of things are only an issue when it's like dodgy players like a Drinkwater, because Drinkwater wasn't young anymore when we got him. So then it was always going to be much more difficult to get rid of him. And then obviously Drinkwater had the issue that he was on loan a couple of times and always had disciplinary issues. If you have disciplinary issues and you're not very good, then how are you ever going to sell a guy? You know what I mean? And Bakayoko has the same issue. He's been okay at a few clubs in Italy, like for Napoli, for Milan. But now Milan so desperately don't want to buy him that it's an issue. And obviously I would assume, the pandemic is over. At least, titled as such by scientists. It's what's it called? An epidemic now, not a pandemic anymore. Although let's see what happens with the case from China, I suppose. But regardless of that, obviously the whole war thing now and how that's affected everywhere in terms of prices and money being available, you'd assume that over the next few years, most football clubs will have a few more money. A few more money. What the fuck? I can't actually speak English. A bit more money available. But yeah, I don't think it's the biggest issue, if I'm honest. It's just getting around financial fair play. If we want to sell them, we will. If we don't, we don't. We've also shown already that if we need to terminate a contract, we will terminate a contract. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. The thing is, all players are more potential rather than proven as well. Okay, I see that point. I see that point. So you're like, their value could drop if they don't, prove that their potential was justified, I suppose. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Difficult one, the way you worded that. Difficult one, absolutely. Let me get to the next one. Jonas says, joined the stream a bit late. Don't know if you already spoke about this, but do you think that Madueke is better than Hudson-Odoi? Joe would have balled out in the Eredivisie, in my opinion. No, I don't think Madueke is better than Hudson-Odoi. The difficult thing with Madueke is, with Hudson-Odoi, is that Hudson-Odoi, since his injury, hasn't really been any good at all, if we're honest. Not at Leverkusen and not for us. But the main difference is they're different players, because Madueke is a left-footed right winger, and that's what we were in desperate need for. If Madueke was the same age as he was, but he was a right-footed left winger, then I would have deemed this move one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen because of Hudson-Odoi. But because it's on the other side, I still think it's a little bit different. We seem to be betting heavy on our recruitment with the long contracts. As long as most of them pay off, it's a good approach. I guess so. It says even if they long contracted players don't pay off, Bowley and Co are likely to have a few more clubs under their umbrella within the next 5 years, so can ship them off to lower teams without worry. True. For someone like Mudryk, that might be a bit difficult because the thing you got to consider under this umbrella, how many big clubs are we going to have there? Like, we're probably going to have a club in Brazil. We're probably going to have a club maybe in like Belgium or France. But as much as we maybe potentially tried the whole Lyon thing, we're never going to get a club that big. So are you going to get these types of players that we are signing now? Are you going to be able to send them off to those types of clubs? To be honest, I'm not quite sure I agree with that part, but we'll see. Jonas will struggle with players like Koulibaly and Sterling and 300k and long contracts. I still think those 300k numbers are including bonuses. Especially in Koulibaly, I still cannot accept and believe that is the case. I don't really believe it. I'm sorry. Maybe that's naive of me. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but no. Sterling might be different, but Sterling. Chelsea want Malo Gusto. Well, I hope so. I hope we get him now in an ideal world. He'd be amazing. I think Hudson-Odoi is better ball carrier, chance creator, but Madueke is still unknown. I think chance creator Madueke might be better at, but I could be wrong. That's what we thought with Bakayoko. Well, but we didn't have the other clubs yet when we had Bakayoko. They shouldn't be on 300k to begin with. Panic buys. Them being on 300k does not make them panic buys whatsoever. We literally signed Sterling in July. I'm not quite sure that can possibly be a panic buy. You need to get yourself a different definition of what panic buy means. But I still agree that none of them should be on 300k. Now, I understand why Sterling did get those high wages, because obviously he wasn't roughly 300k at City. He was always going to get roughly the same for us. Otherwise he was never going to come. It's just in hindsight, he's been so bad that it's not worth it, clearly. Joe has played 9 games in Bundesliga. That you all slander for Werner. He has no goals and only 1 assist. Now, let's look about Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi has had 1 goal ruled out for offside by VAR, which he wasn't offside for. Someone else was offside for. He's had 3 assists stripped off because of someone that was offside in the build-up, not him or the guy that he passed to, as far as I'm aware. And he's playing for a team in Leverkusen who've had an absolute calamity of a season so far. Let me just get the table up quickly. Leverkusen are currently 12th, and obviously they're a huge club, huge club, and they've had a managerial change in the middle of the season as well. So whenever I've seen Hudson-Odoi play for Leverkusen, and I've seen a couple of games in the Bundesliga, and I've seen a couple of games in the Champions League, it's been okay in all of them. Nothing standout, nothing incredible, but I don't think you can just say, he's only 1 assist and no goals. If you watch it, he's not been bad, but the output has certainly not been the way one would have liked. 300k for a City reject, LMAO. I don't think it's City reject. I think it's he wanted to leave City rather than they wanted to let him go. But sure. It's sad to see Hudson-Odoi not killing it. I had high hopes. I wonder how much the ACL affected him. He didn't have an ACL near the Achilles injury, but still, same thing. It will be easier to judge Hudson-Odoi when Wirtz plays with him. Absolutely. You think Havertz would sell for at least 40 million euros? Yes. I personally still don't think we should sell Havertz. I know people disagree with this, but what's my hair doing? Why is it poking out like a weird on my beard? Anyways, I still don't think we should sell Havertz that simply. CFC Piss sucks. He does. CFC Pies, though, great dude. Yeah, at least now. Obviously, but if the rest of the season goes bad, worse, whatever for Havertz, then I might change my mind. But I still think, yeah, I know a lot of people disagree, but I still see a very talented player there. I still see a lot of things that I've never seen enough, that I don't see a lot of players off that have those kind of qualities. The question is, do we need those kind of qualities? That's the only question that I see. The only other thing I will say is, if Havertz stays, I don't see how Felix joins permanently. If Havertz leaves, I'm pretty sure we will try to sign Felix permanently. That's what I'll say. Joe has never been good enough to get past his marker. Madueke can at least do that and play balls into the box. I think that's wrong. Sorry, bro. I mean, maybe after the injury, you can say that you can maybe paint it that way, but before the injury, you can absolutely not say that Hudson-Odoi has never been good enough to get past the marker. I mean, he's made people look silly more than once, quite frankly. Rather your hair poking out than someone else. Yep. Cheers, mate. Same. I think it's too early to sell Havertz, sell Pulisic and Ziyech. I would also not sell Pulisic, if I'm honest. I would sell Sterling. I would sell Aubameyang. I would sell Ziyech. And I would keep the others. I would keep Havertz. I would keep Mount. I would keep Pulisic. I would keep Madueke. And I would keep Mudryk. And if that's the attack, and you add Nkunku to it. Unless, would you swap Havertz for Felix? Oof. Can you ask me this by the end of the loan? Because so far I've seen 60 minutes of Felix in the Premier League and then getting himself sent off. So I don't know yet, bro. And I'm not, what really triggers me is how people constantly talk about what happens at other clubs. Like, pisses me off. The fact, Rudiger is playing really bad for Real Madrid. That's why it was good that we lost him. No, it wasn't. It would have been good if we gave him a new contract and sold him for good money. That would have been good. Or if he stayed, because then he wouldn't have just turned bad. And if he would have turned bad in a back four, then we could have still sold him for money. Like this, we sold him for free and wasted it on Koulibaly, who apparently the club is considering selling again. Who knows whether that happens. Havertz has 3 seasons in his bag and has showed nothing. I disagree that he showed nothing. He's not shown enough, but I disagree that he showed nothing. If Pulley would be guaranteed to be fit for at least 80% of the season, then I would 100% keep Pulley, but I just have lost all faith. I think you're a bit harsh because he's actually been injury-free for quite a long time until now, this injury. And this injury was an impact injury that, I mean, he could have just pulled out and not got injured, but he tried to score and got injured. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's harsh to hold that against him, if I'm honest. I think it was too early to sell Werner. No, getting a bit, man. I can't take you seriously anymore now. Would you pay the 75 million for Caicedo? I don't know. People are telling me we should, but I'm not sold on it completely. But then again, to me, and I've said this multiple times, whether we pay 65 million for him or 75 million doesn't make a flipping difference to me. Do you know what I mean? But hey, so people are prepared for another season of inconsistent performances from Havertz. Yes. But I see that the big difference is I don't want him to start every game. That's the big difference. I don't even really want him to be a striker. I want to actually see him play. That's not even... Is that true? Maris literally got 3 of those yesterday. I feel like you're waffling, bro. But I could be wrong. Hazard was shit at Real and he had his best season for us prior to going. Exactly. Havertz has 44 goal involvement in 112 matches for Chelsea while playing multiple positions. Yeah. KC, 90% of those goals and assists from Bundesliga? He said from Chelsea, so I doubt it. 44 goals and assists for Chelsea. Damn, I really did not know that. My bad. I thought he had like 20 or something. So I'm saying, I mean, 44 in 112 is still not amazing. Let's not beat around the bush here. But yeah, what about Barella or Kone as other options? Barella, you're never going to get, unfortunately. You're never going to get him. And God knows what Lukaku has told any Inter players about us. So, I think we need to get that one out of head. Kone, I know Pice really likes and wants Kone, but hey. Oh, okay. I will check CFC Daily's latest tweet. Give me just a second. CFC Daily. What is it? Breaking. Chelsea interested in signing Malo Gusto, 19. Leon wants to keep the fullback until the end of the season. Report keep more follows. Let me highlight it for you guys. I should probably have highlighted a different comment for the time being, but I'm just back. So here we are. That's that. I mean, I'd be very interested. He seems like an absolute a brilliant player. Now, I'm not quite sure on his defensive abilities because your expert told me basically all of Lyon's attacking comes from Malo Gusto. So that tells me he's good going forward, but how good is he defensively? But the fact that he's 19 and one of the main players at Lyon, he's got to be somewhat decent. If he's happy to probably play second fiddle to Reece James, when Reece James is fit, I'll take it. Exactly. It just looks bad because he starts all the time and in the wrong position. But how many times did he really play in the wrong position? The problem is Kai Havertz says he does. That's not a wrong position. That's the problem. Kai Havertz recently ruined that whole wrong position thing because he says in his opinion, he can play in every attacking position. That's just not true, is it? He can play in every attacking position, and that's just the case and the be all and end all of it. So, let me just check. So, Riyad Mahrez has you're only talking Premier League. Okay, well then fair enough. In the Premier League, 35 million for Madueke, and Arsenal got Trossard for 20. Yeah, exactly, because Madueke is way better of his signing than Trossard. Trossard doesn't even have the discipline to behave himself at Brighton, and he's 28, nearly 29 or whatever he is. Absolute big no-no for me, Trossard. Absolute big no-no. I would much rather Madueke, and I'm not even a fan of Madueke, but I still rather Madueke than Trossard. Kone looks good, to be fair. He does. Or to be honest, sorry. He does. But hey, here we are. And Amit, I don't give two flying shits what you say. Sterling is dreadful. And I want him to be gone. ASAP. No, not ASAP. I'll give him until the summer. But if he doesn't turn any goods between now and the summer, I'm getting him gone. At least I would want to get him gone. Is the Thuram deal dead? Mate, Jonas, I haven't heard anything about this in ages. I actually wanted to bring it up today, but it didn't quite happen. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see whether it is that. I assume it is, but who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time around this one out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for sticking around for the last bit as well. I always appreciate it. Yeah, well, exactly. Good. Not Darwin Caicedo either. I feel we need a Rodri Fabinho category, not another Kante mold. Already have Kovac, Connor Ruben, and also proper creative would be nice. I agree with this exactly. I think we need more like a type, stylistically, a Rice plus an Enzo than a Caicedo and an Enzo, I think. Even though Caicedo and Enzo, I think, would work very, very well, I still think we need a real DM more than Caicedo, but I could also be just wrong, right? So, a lot of people are saying Caicedo is a great player. So if you can, and if Potter doesn't really want that one defensive player in midfield, then I guess you don't need it. But yeah, I'm getting him gone. Player power is dead. It's all about YouTuber power. That's it. That's it. Hey, not even YouTube, it's just my power. That's enough. It's enough. But yeah, Fantasy Media, appreciate you. Appreciate all of you guys that have tuned in. Again, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. Massively appreciate it. Hit the like button on your way out. Let me see how many likes we're on. It's probably not enough. We still have 140 people here, but to be fair, we also have 121 likes. So if there's any one of you left that haven't hit the like button, please do hit it on your way out. It doesn't cost you any money or any time. I appreciate it very, very much. I was only here for about 5-10 minutes, but quality stream as always, my guy. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. JC Fillon, appreciate you as well. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night. Ahmed, take care. I hope you're well, mate. We need to catch up a little bit again. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Up until onwards. Let's hope for big results tomorrow. And I'll see you next time.